Update at noon with Sakina Kamwendo, midday to 1 p.m. Update at noon with Sakina Kamwendo.
Thanks, Madubi. Good afternoon, everybody. 6 minutes after 12. Thanks so much for tuning in to Update at Noon. So we're keeping our eye on what's happening at Luthuli House. And you heard there in the news with Madubi, members of Umkhonto weSizwe Party gathered at the nearby Beyers Naudé Square. So we have our reporter, Sibahle Mota, who's there. So we'll check in with her in just a short while to find out what, if anything, has transpired so far. And then also keeping an eye on the Senzo Meyiwa murder trial. The Vodacom Forensic Liaison Supervisor, Pinky Vithalingam, still on the stand for cross-examination, being questioned as to why she only focused on 3 and not all of the people who were present when Meyiwa was shot in terms of the phone records that she testified about. The Cancer Alliance, represented by Section 27, now they filed an application against the MEC for Health in Gauteng and the Gauteng Health Department and 9 others. The application is in response to the Gauteng Health Department's failure to utilize the allocated 784 million rand that was set aside by the Gauteng Treasury in 2023 to address the radiation backlog and other surgical backlogs in the province. Also, a rather disturbing story of attacks on members of the emergency services. Now, in recent months, there seems to have been an increase in attacks on emergency services personnel across the country. The South African Emergency Personnel's Union have indicated that they are saddened and also came out condemning very strongly the senseless attacks on emergency personnel. And this, of course, is impacting on their response when people are in need. So we'll bring you an update on that. Also taking a look at what's happening in the Eastern Cape, where that flooding that took place that devastated parts of Kariga in the Nelson Mandela Bay Metro. Just checking in with some of the flood victims about what has been promised by government and how things are progressing there. The Democratic Alliance also conducting an oversight visit in the area and taking a look at where some of the flood victims are being housed. Also getting some reaction to the VBS saga. Some of the minority shareholders and depositors as well as executive members are set to hold a press briefing. So we've got our reporter watching that one for us as well. So those are some of the stories that we'll be tracking in the next 50 minutes.
Update at noon, midday to 1 p.m.
We start here in Johannesburg, where members of the Umkhonto weSizwe Party have gathered at Beyers Naudé Square in the Johannesburg city centre, and they say they are doing this to hold for those who hold dual membership of both MK and the ANC. Now, the crowd, we understand a small one at this point, has gathered near Luthuli House to show support to former ANC President Jacob Zuma, and Zuma is being represented by former ANC NEC member Tony Yengeni and is appearing before the ANC's National Disciplinary Hearing on a virtual platform. The former ANC president has been charged under Rule 25 of the ANC's constitution for endorsing the MK party in the May 29 polls. For the latest, let's join our reporter Sibahle Mota, who's there for us. Sibahle, good afternoon. So please just sketch a picture for us of what is happening. Also, those MK party members gathered at the nearby Beyers Naudé Square. Just give us a sense of what is happening and what has been said.
Good afternoon, Sakina. So I am here, as you said, at the Beyers Naudé Square with MK supporters who say they have gathered here just to show support for former ANC President Jacob Zuma, as we all know that he is before the ANC's NDC, just for his stance that he would be endorsing the MK party in the 29 May elections instead of his own party, the ANC. So I could say there is at least 100 supporters who have gathered. And I mean, this is, if one can say, an impressive crowd, because what Gauteng had, MK in Gauteng had actually done is that they had cancelled this whole gathering because they cited the fact that the ANC did not allow the former president to appear before it physically, because that is one of the main calls that the former ANC president has been making. So right now, one would mistaken this as a mini rally with various structures of the MK party present.
Spatle, what is the reason these people say they have gathered there, apart from just showing support for the former president? Because the hearing is taking place virtually. So those who are saying that this might be to provoke the ANC, what are they saying, apart from to show support? Why did they feel the need to gather if this is a virtual hearing?
I mean, what one of the coordinators that I spoke to said was the fact that they will stick with the former president through thick and thin, as they feel like the processes that he's been subjected to are quite unfair. I mean, with another bishop who's also a staunch member of the former ANC president saying to me that he also holds a membership of the ANC, but he decided to cross the floor to the MK party. But what they're saying is that it has nothing to do but with support for the former ANC president, even going as far as saying that they are peace-loving and they urge their members not to even go towards Luthuli House. So I guess this demonstrates a bit of their might to say that they will be with the former president through thick and thin.
Spatle, back to the actual hearing. What are we hearing at this point in this regard?
So right now things are mum. I have tried following up with the MK party spokesperson Nhlamulo Ndlela, who has not responded. But as soon as this crowd disperses, then I'll definitely just look into how far and what any developments may have emerged. And if the former president is present before the actual hearing, as we know, he is being represented by former ANC NEC member Tony Yengeni, who is before this committee. So these are some of the questions that we will look at to have the MK party answer to.
Spatle, please let us know if you hear anything. We'll immediately take your call and put you back on air. Spatle Mota is our reporter watching those developments for us there at Beyers Naudé Square at the moment in the Joburg CBD with Umkhonto weSizwe party members. They've gathered there, as she indicated, about 100-strong crowd, and there to show support for the former president of the ANC and now president of MK party, Jacob Zuma. And of course, as she said, still waiting to hear some feedback from this virtual hearing that is currently in session. So as soon as there's any developments, we will let you know.
Update at noon with Sakina Kamwendo, midday to 1 p.m.
Another interesting story developing this morning. Officials from the Asset Forfeiture Unit, the Special Investigating Unit, and the Hawks are currently carrying out joint operations in Mpumalanga that has seen authorities seize assets and properties belonging to senior officials, service providers and companies that have been linked to a 52.6 million rand corruption network in the Mpumalanga Department of Public Works. The operation follows a preservation court order that was obtained by the Asset Forfeiture Unit, which was recently issued by the High Court in Mbombela. Now, this matter relates, as we understand, to the 2020 to 2021 personal protective equipment tenders within the department. But for more, we joined on the line by SIU spokesperson Kaiser Kganyago. Mr. Kganyago, thanks for your time. Welcome to Update at Noon.
Good afternoon and good afternoon to your listeners, Sakina.
Mr. Kganyago, may I please ask for your indulgence, just for our benefit by way of background, but also for those who may not have been following the story too closely. What brought this matter to the attention of the authorities and when did the investigations begin?
Thank you. We started our investigations, Sakina, in 2020, 2021 when we were doing the PPE investigation throughout the country. We continued with it until we found in the Mpumalanga Department of Public Works that there were people who were given tenders for PPEs, but they never delivered anything. And all that money just went to their friends and officials that were helping the service providers. We then took that evidence to the National Prosecuting Authority. As we speak now, Together with the Hawks, we investigated. There are about 22 officials who are arrested and the service providers. And then we got an order through the asset forfeiture unit to now get this money back. And that is where the freezing orders come from.
Mr. Kganyago, just for clarity and to confirm, you say 22 people. Are they linked or have they been arrested? And if they are linked, how many have been arrested at this stage?
22 have been arrested already. Some appeared yesterday, some appeared today in court. And then the houses and the properties, they are all over the country. They are not only in Mpumalanga. Majority of them are here, but there are others in Rustenburg, others in Hartebees, and a boat there. And then there are about 31 cars that we are freezing. And there's one house also in Cape Town that we are also freezing related to this case.
Very interesting. Saw some of this this morning, of course, with one of our reporters who was accompanying you, where you even came upon houses that were empty. So how's it been going so far, Mr. Kganyago?
It has been going very well because some of the people ran away, but we indicated to them, even on television this morning, that whether you are there or not, you must consider yourself saved. Because it doesn't mean if you run away, you will not be saved. But the order also goes further. We don't only preserve the house, we preserve the contents, we preserve their bank accounts, we even preserve their bail money for those that are out on bail. And as we speak, all the internet statuses of their accounts have been deactivated through this court order. Therefore, they cannot manage their money as from today going forward.
And I also understood this to be, a multi-pronged seizure where you were trying to pounce on as many of these entities and people at the same time. Am I correct in understanding that, Mr. Kganyago? And, in the other provinces apart from Mpumalanga, has that been a successful strategy?
Yes, definitely. We had teams in 34 areas. And the teams went at the same time at 8:30, and therefore we have gotten a report as I speak to you that all were executed with success in all the provinces.
Well, Mr. Kganyago, are you likely to make effect any more arrests today?
No, today, no. The ones that are arrested, they have appeared. They are out on bail, and we hope that they will get prosecution very soon, because we have got the whole evidence about what really happened. But today it was just to make sure that we serve them with the papers and check all as I'm speaking to you, the teams are going through the inventories and make sure that everything that is in the house will remain in the house until they are auctioned.
Mr. Kganyago, thanks so much for speaking to us. SIU spokesperson Kaiser Kganyago, and that operation that started this morning, 34 locations simultaneously being pounced upon. You heard Mr. Kganyago say they've captured inventory of 29 properties, 31 vehicles, a boat among those as well, and 22 people have been arrested so far. Let us know your thoughts.
Here, there, and everywhere. SAFM 104.3 FM in Rustenburg. Update at noon with Sakina Kamwendo, midday to 1 p.m.
It is 20 minutes after 12 and a very, very busy morning. So let's bring you up to speed with what's happening further afield and taking you to the United States, where it's been a very busy 9 days. And the U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris has picked up the keyboard endorsement of former Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi. And this as potential rivals have also fallen in line to back her path to the Democratic Party's presidential nomination. Now, Vice President Harris has picked up dozens of endorsements from members of Congress as well as key governors across the country after President Joe Biden announced that he will no longer seek re-election. Biden endorsed his vice president of the last 3.5 years for the top job. Now, in her first public remarks since the announcement, Harris praised Biden's legacy of accomplishments as unmatched in modern history. This report by Psho and Bryce Pease.
Some 24 hours after Biden made his historic announcement to quit the re-election race while endorsing his VP, Harris has since racked up a number of key endorsements, including from the party's stalwarts Bill and Hillary Clinton and Speaker Emerita Nancy Pelosi, who said in a statement that it was with immense pride and limitless optimism for the country's future that she endorsed Harris for President of the United States. This was the VP speaking at an event at the White House where she stood in for President Biden, who is still recovering at his private residence in Delaware after a COVID-19 diagnosis.
Joe Biden's legacy of accomplishment over the past 3 years is unmatched in modern history. In one term, he has already, yes, you may clap. In one term, he has already surpassed the legacy of most presidents who have served 2 terms in office.
No challengers have emerged since Biden's exit became known, with California Governor Gavin Newsom, Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear, Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer, Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro, and Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker all endorsing Harris, placing her on a glide path to the nomination, barring any seismic developments in the weeks ahead of the Democratic National Convention, which begins August 19th. This was the response from House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries when asked if he would endorse Harris.
Well, Leader Schumer and I are scheduled to meet with Vice President Harris shortly. The House came back into session today. The Senate does not come back into session tomorrow. I'm excited for that meeting, and let me say this, that Vice President Kamala Harris has excited the community. She's excited the House Democratic Caucus, and she's exciting the country. And so I'm looking forward to sitting down with her in person in short order with Leader Schumer, and we'll have more to say about the path forward as soon as that meeting concludes.
With mere weeks for Democrats to get their ducks in a row ahead of the formal decision on their nominee next month, as senior Democratic U.S. Senator Dick Durbin explained.
106. We ought to remember that number. We have 106 days left before the election in November, and we are just at the moment of deciding on the Democratic side who our nominee for president will be. The announcement yesterday by President Biden came as a surprise to many. This has been building for some period of time. I want to salute him. He said that he would turn to his vice president, Kamala Harris, to be the nominee of the party. She called me last night in Springfield, and we talked for a few minutes, and she asked me for my endorsement, and I gave it to her.
While residents in Harlem, New York also weighed in on Biden's exit and Harris's likely emergence at the top of a new Democratic ticket.
I think he was probably feeling the pressure, but he also, it's the party, it's greater than him. It's about the party, and it's about making sure that people get out and vote, so he made the right decision.
He did good. Pass the torch. Let the young people do their thing now.
Only he knows what's best for him. If he feels he made the right decision, he displayed it quite nicely the way he did it. He served his term, and that's it. But who's going to come after him, that's a whole different thing.
Trump has a lot of things that is going bad for him. God bless him. I'm glad he didn't die. But it looks like someone else could do it. And I don't think Biden's capable of doing it no more. You know, as far as his health-wise and everything that's going on with him. So that is the reason why I say that I think the woman will win.
Democrats have netted over $100 million in online donations in the 24 hours since Biden's exit from the race. Meanwhile, the president's physician also indicated Monday that his symptoms after a COVID-19 diagnosis last week had almost resolved completely, and that his lungs remained clear while he continued to perform his presidential duties. Biden is expected to speak to the nation in more detail about his decision to exit the race later this week. I'm Sherwin Bryce-Pease in New York.
Sakina Kamwendo on SAFM.
Well, moving on to the courts, where a corruption case against former Sports, Arts and Culture Minister Zizi Kodwa and his co-accused Jan McKay has been postponed until next month by the Palm Ridge Specialized Commercial Crime Court in Ekurhuleni. Now, the pair stands accused of corruption amounting to 1.6 million rands. Shortly before the recent election, Zizi Kodwa resigned as minister, stating that he wants to clear his name. Now, here's what the presiding judge in the matter had to say.
Mr. McKay, Mr. Kodwa, your case is then postponed until the date arranged between parties, which is the 21st of August, 21 August, back to this court, 8:30. It is then for the state to reply to the further particular request. The state will also then engage with Mr. Small-Smith on your behalf, Mr. McKay, to find out whether he wished to follow the same route. Alternatively, it is important to impress upon Mr. Small-Smith to make sure that whatever route he intends following, whether it's further particulars or a representation or both, he needs to please submit these as soon as possible in order to get a speedy reply. Both your bail is extended, same conditions as before. From the submissions made, the list of 6 names of state witnesses, which will then bring that bail condition of no contact in play or in operation. Please refrain from making contact with those listed witnesses. If for whatever reason they come across your path, please avoid them and turn around and walk away for the time being under the circumstances. Do you understand, Mr. McKay? I understand. Mr. Kodwa? Thank you. You may stand down.
Meanwhile, Advocate Zola Majavu, representing former Minister Kodwa, says that he intends to prove his client's innocence.
Look, of course, there are serious charges, and I'm always one who respects my opponents. If the state believes that it's a winnable case, I want to grant them the benefit of the doubt. The onus is on them to prove my client's guilt beyond reasonable doubt. I'm not excited about this. I'm not fazed by the case. I know what I know, and I know the questions that I have put to them. I will only comment at the appropriate forum once I have received a reply to my questions. I'm not going to litigate over the media. I do what I do, and I do believe that I will do my utmost best on behalf of my client. Whether or not it's winnable, it depends which perspective you're looking at it from. I have every intention to win for my client. The state has every intention, I would imagine, to win for the state.
And that was Advocate Zola Majavu, representing former Sports, Arts and Culture Minister Zizi Kodwa.
Sakina Kamwendo on SAFM.
Well, that leaves us with about a minute and a half before news headlines with Mudupi. Let's listen to a few of your voice notes.
Good afternoon, Sakina, Mr. M. Captain. The former President Zuma, he moved on. I mean, I don't understand why the ANC, they take him to the court to the house. He moved on. He makes his own party. I mean, really. I'm one of the supporters of ANC was the case. But let him go if he wants. So our ANC, they must stop, I mean, calling whatever, I mean, hearing all that. It's nothing they can do it. He move on and he gets sliced parliament and he will come back and he will get more. I mean, really. I mean, he's a popular, really. I mean, so he move on. I mean, I don't know why they're calling. I mean, he break the rule and that. The ANC is sometimes internal fighting is on way back. I mean, Mandela when he stepped down up to now. So it's nothing new, really. I mean, so we must accept it. He move on and let's do his duty in parliament. And
these MK people are angry and they will not stop doing their filthy meetings behind closed doors because they hate Ramaphosa and they thought ANC will be vulnerable. They are worried about the GNU. They want this country to be ungovernable because they want to be at the Lutuli house and rule the country. Thank you, Saki Saki.
Well, thanks so much for those voice notes. And of course, there are more. Keep sending them. We'll share a few more in a short while. But for now, it's 12:30. Here's Mudupi Makhalimele with your headlines.
Thank you very much, Sakina, and a very good afternoon. In your headlines this hour, the Assets Forfeiture Units, the SIU and the Hawks, are currently in a joint operation in Mpumalanga to seize assets and properties of those linked to a 52.6 million rand corruption network within the Provincial Public Works Department. Scores of MK supporters have gathered along the Beyers Naudé Square in Joburg, just a few meters from the ANC's Luthuli House, and analysts say it stands to be seen if the US will extend South Africa's eligibility to the African Growth and Opportunity Act, AGOA. Details of these and other stories coming up 1 o'clock.
Nelson Mandela once said,
"It is in your hands to create a better world for all who live in it."
SAFM urges you to identify those in need around you and to do what you can to make a difference to them. Tata Mandela went further to say, what counts in life is not the mere fact that we have lived. It is what difference we have made to the lives of others that will determine the significance of the life we led. SAFM celebrates Mandela Month. SAFM Sport with John Gerika.
Hello, John.
How's it?
I'm good.
I got into trouble yesterday.
What happened?
Because we went on for too long.
Who would you get in trouble?
No, everybody.
No, John.
Everybody. There was a line outside saying, John, you're taking too long.
They were just looking at you, John.
No, there was...
You read way too much into it.
All right, so I'm going to go quickly today. You ready? No. There's Springbok news. Rassie Erasmus is named 33 men to and double Rugby World Cup winning captain Siya Kolisi for the 2-match Rugby Championship Tour of Australia. There was a lot written about him not being the captain. He's the captain. 22 of the 33 players are Rugby World Cup winners. 524 debutants included in the squad. They are utility front ranker Jan-Hendrik Wessels, hooker Jan Grobler, utility forward Ben Jason Dixon, utility back Sasha Feinberg and Ngomazulu, and scrum half Morne van den Berg. Only newcomers to the group is Lach Ruanokia, who made his Springbok debut against Wales in 22. All the other players featured in at least one of the team's opening 4 test matches this season. Players not considered for selection due to injury or rehab are Franco Mostert, scrum half Faf de Klerk, 8th man Evan Roos has been dropped from the squad. Matches against the Wallabies played on the 10th and 17th of August. Football news. Reigning league champions Mamelodi Sundowns have announced the appointment of Frenchman Romain Foltz as the new assistant coach. Former Amazulu Marumo Gallants head coach joins on the technical team headed by Mankoba Menkriti and includes Steve Kompela, Wendell Robinson and Kennedy Muina.
I didn't see that one coming.
No, big surprise. That's like, if you want a superstars of coaches, let's just throw them all into one club. Why not? Some cricket news. Charlie Castle has beaten Kagiso Rabada's 9-year-old record for best bowling figures on debut in a men's ODI. He had Oman number 11 Bilan Khan caught behind in Dundee. So his dream debut, he picked up 2 wickets with his opening 2 balls, finished with 7-wicket haul to guide Scotland to an easy win. His 7 for 21, also the 7th best bowling figures by a player in ODI. Okay, it was against Oman, doesn't matter. It's the longest retirement in the known universe, Sakina. Andy Murray. How long has he been retiring? Andy Murray has confirmed he will retire from tennis after the Paris Olympic Games. 37 years old now, he's planning to play in the singles and the doubles in Paris in what will be his 5th Games. He beat Roger Federer to win gold at the London Games back in 2012. Tour de France news. Well, cycling news. Today, Pogacar has pulled out of the Olympic Games because of extreme fatigue. They start on Friday. The 25-year-old was scheduled to take part in the road race on the 3rd of August. Meanwhile, speaking of the Olympic Games, they begin tomorrow. Officially, they only start on Friday with the opening ceremony, but football and sevens kicks off tomorrow. Argentina against Morocco in the football, Uzbekistan against Spain in the early games. Then South Africa up against Ireland in the men's sevens match that starts at 5:30 tomorrow night. New Zealand next for South Africa at 9:30. Japan's the other side in South Africa's group. Here's Coach Philip Snyman.
But our focus will definitely be on Ireland, first one. If we get over that hurdle, a good solid foundation, and then we can build on it and then take on New Zealand. So I'm happy with where we are, and the guys are really getting excited for the weekend. You can feel the vibe in the team and the atmosphere. Yeah, the guys in good space. So really looking forward to this weekend and forward to a good Olympic Games.
Big news is the opening ceremony is not going to be held in a stadium as as is traditionally done, but it's going to be wide open to the public through most of the capital. Here's French President Emmanuel Macron.
But we decided that it was the right moment to deliver this crazy idea and to make it real. So I want to thank all those who did contribute to this ceremony and did contribute in order not just to organize this parade, which is totally unique, with, you will see, world artists, but as well dancers, orchestras, and so on, making Paris just an open theater and the Seine River, the core of the theater.
C'est the Seine River. Seine River. And just quickly, South African duo of Christian Besaidenout and Eric van Rooyen, they're going to be at the Olympic Games. They will have confirmed their entry to the Nedbank Golf Challenge in early December.
Yeah. See, LeBron James will be one of the flag carriers for the United States.
Yeah, they nearly got beaten by, was it Algeria or something, the US team. So things aren't looking great for them.
Yeah, but yeah, looking forward to it. I must say, I can't wait to see the spectacle actually play out.
We love the games, eh?
Yeah, I love it.
It's 2 weeks
Totally.
of excitement, and there's going to be some records. I think there's going to be so many records in athletics this year. There's just going to be numbers dropping. It's going to be great.
Akane Simbini?
Yeah, no, he's there. There or thereabouts. There or thereabouts.
He
Hopefully
is
a
there
medal.
or thereabouts.
If he can medal, it would be spectacular.
That would be spectacular.
Just that.
Yeah, but
So
the way
close.
things are.
Yeah, he's looking fit.
Yeah.
Fit.
Yeah.
We got an 800 runner as well. It's looking good. Swimming always we get a couple of medals there as well.
Yeah.
So let's see.
Bye.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Well, the rand's trading at 18 rand 37 cents to the US dollar, 23 rand 74 to the pound sterling, and 19 rand 99 to the euro. The euro trading at $1.08 and the dollar's at 155 yen 91. In Brazil, $1 US is trading at 5 real 57. In Russia at 87 rubles 45. India at 83 rupees 68. And in China, $1 US is changing hands at 7 yuan 27. Markets in Asia were mainly weak at closing bell. Hong Kong's Hang Seng shed 0.9%. Hong Kong's Hang Seng, the Shanghai index gave up 1.7%, and Japan's Nikkei ended flat, while India's markets were slightly weaker at the close of trade. The JSE is red across the board at midday. The All Share Index has fallen 0.5%, and it's at 80,046. The Industrials 25 Index has declined by 0.7%. Financials off 0.5%. Top 10 Resources Index is 0.2% lower, and the Precious Metals and Mining Index down 0.3%. On the capital market, the yield on the R186 government bond is at 8.45%, and the yield on the R2030 at 9.56%. European markets mixed at this hour. Britain's FTSE 100 has dropped 0.3%. The CAC 40 in France is flat, and Germany's DAX 0.7% to the good. And looking at commodities, gold trading at $2,403 per fine ounce. Platinum's at $945 per ounce, and the price of Brent crude oil, $82.74 a barrel at this hour.
Be prepared to perform with Bridgestone. Purchase 2 or more tyres at participating dealers and stand a chance to win your share of 2 million rand worth of Samsung products ranging from phones, tablets and TVs. Enter now at bridgestone.co.za. T's and C's apply. Bridgestone. Prepare to perform.
Nick is hiding a dark secret. For 20 years, everything has been going according to plan. Until now. He has the perfect wife, Maya, a smart, ambitious defense lawyer who is on the verge of becoming the first black director of public prosecutions. Amidst the biggest case of her career and having her life under intense scrutiny, Maya learns of Nick's dark secret and how she was one of Nick's targets 20 years ago. The veil of secrecy will fall. Nothing stays hidden forever. Betrayal, secrets, suspense. Oh, the drama. This is Undercover, Mondays to Wednesdays at 9 p.m. on S3. Channel your best drama with BBC Primetime, only on S3. Open up.
S3. Update at noon with Sakina Kamwendo, midday to 1 p.m.
Well, let's listen to a few more of your voice notes, and I'll read a few of your messages as well.
Good afternoon, Sakina.
I think Jacob Zuma wants a civil war with ANC because we have seen his power through looting. Looting was an example of what will come in Zuma, because the power that he has, he will destroy South Africa. More expectation is to come from him, because he's just that politician, works like a commander of war. Brian Mabai, Protea Glen. Thank you.
Good morning, Sisakina. This is Mbongo Swendisa Palintulo. Sisakina, tell me, what is these MK members want like ANC to do? The men formed like his own political party with Jabulan Kumalo, and then he wants to be the leader of MK and then the member of the ANC. I don't understand. People, they just support, even if they see something that they are supporting is nonsense. All right, thanks, bye.
Good afternoon, Sakina. Pardon my ignorance, but I don't understand. How is Beyers Naudé Square near Luthuli House? Because apparently MK is gathered at Beyers Naudé Square in support of Jacob Zuma's disciplinary hearing. Because of course they said they won't go and show up at Luthuli House. But I still don't understand why the choice of Beyers Naudé Square, which is very far from Luthuli House. What are they hoping to achieve by this?
Yeah, hi, Sakina. I don't know Jacob Zuma why, and not only him, other African leaders cannot take an example from Nelson Mandela and Joe Biden and just step down. Just step down. What else does Jacob Zuma have to offer us? He gave us the Guptas. He gave us state capture. Ufunane man. Magahambe lo baba. Please, man, Sakina. This is Sheikh Sinsoweto here. Magahambe ubaba, man.
Good day, Sakina. Sakina, I want to know if this SIU raids, they were happening long time ago or just happening now, or is how this new government is doing, or Cyril Ramaphosa is fighting a crime? Because of now, they show that they're working now. Now we see them that really they're working. This is Morocco Malazita Flokop Limpopo.
Thanks so much, everybody, for those messages. And no, the SIU raids are not new. I think we've spoken on this very show to Kaiser Khanyago and others previously quite a bit when they have conducted such raids. So nothing new there. This is just the latest. Let me read a few more messages. Maxwell, I see that's a response to something. Petru says, Sakina, it's obvious that the ANC is going to expel Zuma. Zuma supporters are wasting their time. If I were American, I would go for Trump. It's sad, SK, that emergency service givers are getting attacked. That's from Petu Koza. This one is from Joshua. They have their hearts and their minds. Action expresses priorities. Let all parties work together to make Gauteng great, is what you say. Mbonisi says, Sakina, balance me here. Is Zuma not appearing virtually? So why are his supporters picketing outside Luthuli House? I wonder who will uncover their blindness. And again, as we said, they are not at Luthuli House. They are about a stone's throw away from there. And one of the callers asked about the proximity of Beyers Naudé to Luthuli House. It's actually quite close. It's not too far. So that's downtown Johannesburg in the CBD. And I did ask our reporter about the reasons why, because she spoke to the supporters, why they gathered there. And they said they simply wanted to show their support. So they are fully aware of the fact that this is a virtual disciplinary hearing. So those are your messages, really appreciate it. And of course, if we have more time towards the end, we'll squeeze in a few more. It's 15 minutes before 1.
Update at noon, midday to 1 p.m.
Now, let's take you to the Senzo Mayiwa court case where the forensic liaison supervisor from Vodacom has taken the stand at the Gauteng High Court in Pretoria. And she's been quizzed about the data and why she only focused on 3 of the people that were present when Senzo Mayiwa was shot. Mayiwa was shot and killed while visiting Kelly Kumalo's mother's residence in Vosloorus in Gauteng in October 2014. But for the latest, we're joined by our reporter Pearl Magubane, who's been following the story rather closely. Pearl, good afternoon. So again, perhaps starting at the beginning with the Vodacom forensic liaison supervisor, the question was asked about why she had focused on only 3 of those present at the house on that eventful or fateful day, I should say. So what have the arguments been today?
Good afternoon, Sakina, and to the listeners. Well, the defense, criticized Vetelingam on that fact, considering the fact that, there were 7 people inside the house, and they went on to take out an affidavit from 2014, which was addressed to Vodacom, requesting that all the people, the 205 and phone data for all the people in the house, including that of Mayiwa's then wife, Mandisa Mkhize. But what Vetelingam said was that, she just followed or sent out information that the investigating officers had requested, and that question should be posed to the state. Now, today, they're continuing to poke holes at her evidence. One, accused number 3, is said to be the one that fired the fatal shot on the 26th of October 2014, while Pinky Vetelingam's data places accused number 3 in Vosloorus during the day between 1 and 3 p.m. The same phone number pinged at George Gore Hostel in Joburg that afternoon. And now what we're hearing from his defense lawyer, Charles Mnisi, is that the data still places accused number 3 in Johannesburg right up until 8:32. And we know, according to the state, that Mayiwa, the alleged crime happened after 8, and he was declared dead after 9 p.m. the same day.
So is court still in session at this point, Pearl? And of course, what more are we expecting?
Yes, it's still in session. Another thing that the defense has asked Mnisi specifically is with regards to obtaining the data from the server of Vodacom and who has access to it. Vetelingam maintains that, their system can be manipulated while all the evidence is in the computer. But when she was asked as to what happens post that, she still maintains that it can be manipulated. I guess the defense trying to say that some of the data that is present in court could have been changed or altered by the investigating officers, but she maintains that their system cannot be manipulated or tampered with.
Just a final question, Pearl. Back to the fact that only 3 of the people who are said to have been in the house having had their records reviewed forensically. Was there any talk about getting the other 4 as well?
Not at all. I mean, that question is the state needs to, continue or answer to it. But the defense does say that they do have records of the other people that were in the house, and they just wanted to know that why, when those people or those records presented in court, claiming that they're omitting crucial evidence, and one of that being a phone call that was made by Tumelo Madlala allegedly to Senzo Mayiwa's brother-in-law or Mandisa's brother immediately after the murder. But they say that they will submit those 205 despite the state not submitting that evidence.
Pearl Magubane, thank you so much for the update, Pearl, following that Senzo Mayiwa murder trial for us.
Attention ladies, join us on Saturday, August 17th, 2024 for the Star Choice is Yours Women's Day event at Altitude Fourways, a day dedicated to empowerment, inspiration and transformation. Engage with dynamic speakers, attend interactive conversations, and connect with amazing women just like you. The event will be hosted by the fabulous Unatingai. Don't miss out on this opportunity to celebrate and elevate yourself. Get your tickets now at www.quicket.co.za for 550 Rand, drinks, food, and a gift bag included. Plus, stand a chance to win an honor product. This incredible event is powered by independent media and the Honor 200 series.
Weeknights on S3 are all about winning and winning big with Wheel of Fortune. For the first time in South Africa, Wheel of Fortune is on S3, Monday to Friday at 7:30 p.m., where Rory Sang has South Africans locked into the world of word puzzles. Watch contestants spin the wheel to stand a chance of walking away with 100,000 Rand or a car valued at over 500,000 Rand. You can also be part of the show and win big. To be part of the show, log on to wheeloffortunesa.tv and let the wheel decide your fate. Channel your inner wordsmith with Wheel of Fortune SA on S3. Open up.
Update at noon, midday to 1 p.m.
9 minutes before 1. Thanks so much for staying with us here on Update at Noon. Now, the South African Emergency Personnel's Union is concerned and has condemned the senseless attacks of emergency personnel. Emergency personnel have to rush to attend to a call and ever so often come under attack. Now, a certain call at a Klau section in Mpumalanga led to one such attack. One of the family members allegedly kept on phoning the control center, making threats that the ambulance is taking too long to arrive, which ultimately resulted in a scuffle when the EMS arrived at the said house. And this allegedly is not the first time that the emergency personnel have been attacked in this manner, and it's now becoming a worry. And for more on this, we joined on the line by the president of the South African Emergency Personnel Union, Mpho Geng. Mpho, thanks for your time. Welcome to Update at Noon.
Thank you for having me.
Mpho, so just looking at statistics and trends of late, has the situation actually been worsening?
Yes, let me confirm, Sakina, that the situation is worsening, and there is nothing that has been done since we've been talking about these incidences. And at some point, it will be quite imperative, Sakina, to talk about the cause of this kind of these attacks. Because this one, I used to tell the MECs and whoever that the more you throw big parties about handing over the ambulances is creating a wrong impression to the community members. One must indicate that the minute you promulgate or throw a big party about the handing over of the ambulances, you are telling the community members that the ambulances are readily available and they are enough. And only to find that the very same ambulances, for instance, if I can give an example, Sakina, in Mpumalanga, you'll find that they are having a plus or minus 30 ambulance stations, and they procure 20 ambulances and they throw a big party. Obviously, that on its own is a shortage. And community members, they expect you to respond within a prescribed time if there is an emergency call. And because of shortage, you'll have a problem of responding towards that within the very same prescribed time. And secondly, I must indicate, Sakina, that before the incident happened, we got a report from our members saying most of the ambulances in Mpumalanga, if I'm not mistaken, 90% of ambulances in Mpumalanga, they are not roadworthy, and some of them, they exceeded plus 500,000 kilos. So you'll agree with me that even a vehicle is having more than 500,000 kilos. Is no longer reliable. So most of the ambulances that are there, they will work for a week. After that, they go back to the garage for repairs and so forth. That shortage is creating a very serious backlog and serious problem to community members. So we raised that with the MEC. Unfortunately, she's out of the country. She'll be coming on Friday. But we raised that thing before this incident happened. And we are still saying as the union that it is not advisable to throw parties when you hand over the ambulance ambulances, because this will lead to attacks of our members by the community members. Because again, lastly, Sakina, there is a ratio for an ambulance. One ambulance equals to 10,000 community members. So you can see in other areas, they have one ambulances while they have plus or minus 50,000 community members. So that will be a very serious problem.
Paul, just going back to specific incidents, and I think important so that we get a sense of what your members are dealing with. This recent incident in Mpumalanga province. Firstly, can you just explain to us in greater detail exactly what happened there and how that situation was ultimately resolved?
Yeah, let me indicate that the incident happened because our community members requested an ambulance, and unfortunately, because of the very same backlog, the ambulance didn't respond according to expected time. So what happened is that the community members, they kept on calling the control center requesting an ambulance. And one other thing that I must also raise, Sakina, is that at some point, members or our crew members or our members, they are compelled to prioritize. For instance, if it's a medical condition patient and while you are still going to respond to that particular incident, you'll find that on the way or before you respond to that incident, there is an accident. You can't say, let me go and collect a pregnant woman and I'll come and I'll respond to the accident afterwards. So you have to prioritize. So the delay was there because of the shortage. The delay was there precisely because of prioritizing. So what happened is that when they reached that area, the family members were very angry because of the delay, because you are sitting with the person that you see that within short period of time, if the ambulance cannot arrive, that person might actually die. So basically what happened is that when they are reached there, the community members or the family members started attacking our members, and they end up beating them, and those people, fortunately enough, they escaped and left the ambulance there. The police case has been open, and for now I can't confirm as to whether they've arrested anybody, but I know that the case was open. So it is a very, very serious matter that needs to be attended by the very same department as well, because they are actually risking the lives of our members, because they can't accept publicly to the community that there is a problem of shortage in the EMS, because each and every member or the political head of each and every department want to claim as to whether they claim that they are operating very well in the departments, and their departments are doing very well, while we know very well that departments are just limping.
Paul, thanks so much for highlighting this plight for us, and that's where we'll have to leave it. Paul Mpoheng is the South African Emergency Personnel Union's spokesperson, and speaking to us there, my apologies, the president, not the spokesperson of SAIPU. So very worrying situation playing out.
Sakina Kamwendo on SAFM.
Let's quickly squeeze in this one. A non-profit organization, the Chinwani Farisani Foundation, has called for political parties implicated in the VBS matter to repay the money. Now, the former ANC Provincial Treasurer Danny Msiza, along with former CEO Andile Ramavunga, former Treasurer Poppy Mukondobane, and former non-executive members Ernest Nisani and Paul Makula, had their pre-trial hearing postponed until the 14th of next month at the High Court in Pretoria, and they face charges of fraud, corruption, money laundering and racketeering. And speaking on behalf of the foundation, Robert Livoy explained how the VBS collapsed in their view.
In our view, VBS failed due to pressure extended on the municipalities to withdraw deposit from the bank through the August 2017 communication by the National Treasury to municipalities covering possible implications to municipalities of officials in terms municipal legislations for banking or keeping deposit with mutual bank. We are also of the view that the VBS should be restored as a going concern to the position before the August 2017 National Treasury Circular. We humbly request that, number one, perpetrators to be brought to book to follow Mr. Philip Truter and Chikiwa Matodzi. Number two, all those who wrongly received money from VBS to pay it back. Number three, liquidators to continue collecting money from those who borrowed it and selling of the asset to be applied to recover the money. The money received be used to pay creditors, and what is left will be for the shareholders.
And that was Robert Livoy speaking on behalf of the Genuani Farisani Foundation. That's all our time this afternoon. Thanks so much for participating and listening in, everybody. Thanks to the production team. Here's Mudupi Makhalimele with your latest news.
Thank you very much, SK. The top stories at 1. Assets linked to a corruption network seized, and SA's AGOA eligibility not yet certain. A very good afternoon. The Assets Forfeiture Unit, the SIU, and the Hawks are currently in a joint operation in Mpumalanga to seize assets and properties of those linked to a 52 million rand corruption network within the Provincial Public Works. This relates to 2020-2021 PPE tenders within the department. SIU spokesperson Kaiser Khanyago.
The assets and properties are linked to the 22 senior management officials, service providers and entities in an alleged corruption network within the Mpumalanga Department of Public Works. The seizure follows the preservation court order from the High Court of South Africa Mpumalanga Division, Mbombela, obtained by the Asset Forfeiture Unit. The operation includes serving orders at 34 locations simultaneously and the capturing of inventory of 29 properties, 31 vehicles and a boat. The court order freezes properties such as houses, electronics, cars, household items, jewelry, arms, ammunition, bank accounts, salaries and bail monies.
Scores of MK Party supporters have gathered along the Beyers Naudé Square in Joburg, a few meters from the ANC's Luthuli House. This as former ANC President Jacob Zuma is appearing before the party's disciplinary committee on a virtual platform. He's been charged under Rule 25 of the ANC Constitution after endorsing the MK Party in the recent elections. The MK Party's Gama Mazibuko says the former president should have been allowed to present himself physically before the committee.
Our president is always a people's person, and he believes in warm bodies when he deals with matters. So as he wanted to be there in person, he wanted to deal and to look at people that he's dealing with. But anyway, I cannot say much. Let's let the processes unfold and we'll take it from there.
The legal counsel for suspended Judge Dintswalo Makubele has sought to poke holes in submissions by complainants and the evidence leader in the probe looking into her alleged misconduct. Advocate Thabani Masuku says there's been no evidence submitted to the Judicial Conduct Tribunal that Makubele intentionally aimed to mislead the judiciary by not disclosing that she was still PRASA chairperson when she started her duties as a judge. Closing arguments are being heard in the matter following a 2019 complaint against Makubele by the civic organization Unite Behind. Masuku elaborates.
In paragraph 314 of their submissions, when they've spoken about what the difficulties they have, this is what they seek the tribunal to draw inference or to conclude. That Justice Makubele acted intentionally to further an illicit, unknown purpose. Let me stop there. Is there evidence that Justice Makubele intentionally or unintentionally furthered an illicit purpose? We submit there was none. The complainants have not submitted a single shred of evidence that support that kind of conclusion.
Analysts say it stands to be seen if the U.S. will extend South Africa's eligibility to the African Growth and Opportunity Act, AGOA. This as a South African delegation led by Trade and Industry Minister Pax Tau is currently in the U.S. to lobby against a Senate review of the bilateral relations between the two countries. Last month, the U.S. House of Representatives passed a law requiring a comprehensive assessment of the bilateral relations, which could potentially harm trade ties and jeopardize South Africa's participation in AGOA. AGOA is a trade agreement that grants South Africa and 30 other African countries duty-free access to the U.S. market. Political and economic risk analyst Marisa Lorenko.
When we did have the AGOA forum last year, there was an indication that there is a willingness to do that. In April, we saw Senate introduce a bill to that effect, but nothing is certain yet. In terms of the South African delegation, I think that that is an important sign that South Africa takes its relations with the U.S. very seriously. But I think that the issue is much more complex than simply sending a delegation.
And a Mpumalanga-based pediatric surgeon has embarked on a mission to raise funds for children's surgeries. Dr. Andre Hatting will be driving a tractor across 6 provinces as part of his 3rd annual On Track Tour charity ride for 21 days. At the same time, Dr. Hatting says he'll be raising awareness against children and farm murders in the country.
With this, there are a number of reasons. The first one is, of course, to collect funds for children's surgeries, bigger type surgeries. And then number 2 is, of course, to make awareness, international awareness against farm murders in South Africa. And then also to make awareness of the number of children that is killed and murdered and raped in South Africa every year. So we actually have 3 reasons why we're riding. Very importantly, for children's surgeries.
The top story this hour, the Assets Forfeiture Unit, the SIU and the Hawks are currently in a joint operation in Mpumalanga to seize assets and properties of those linked to a 52 million rand corruption network within the Provincial Public Works Department. For SAFM News, Ke Mudupi Makhalemele. Up next, The Full Circle.
The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga, Monday to Friday, 1 to 3 p.m.
Ndizibuze imibuzo ngelinye ixesha sithandwa sam kuba ngathi awuboni uthando lwam ngelinye ixesha sithandwa sam ndiba ngazama awuboni umzamo wam kodwa xa ngekho phambi kwakho uyayazi kuba njani na kuba xa ungekho phambi kwam ndiyayazi kuba njani kum uyenza buhlungu intliziyo yam unyenza ndizibuze imibuzo uyenza khumbula uba kukwizithembiso esazenzayo phambi komfundisi nabantu kuba wawuthe uzaba nami noma kunjani ebuhleni nasemubini ndiyamangala xa izaba nguwe lo ufuna uhamba ufuna uthatha into zakho goduke ndiyamangala xa izaba nguwe lo ufuna ugoduka ngenxa yabantu ngenamali uyenza intliziyo yam unyenza ndizibuze imibuzo uyenza
It is Nati coming through with Imibuzo. That is how we kick off the show this afternoon. The Full Circle with myself, Bridget Masinga on SAFM, leading the conversation. I keep saying this, most often when we play, especially some of our local artists, many of our local artists, there's no sort of digital footprint that one can lean into in order to extract some information, something that we really need to rectify. We talk a lot about archiving our collective histories as Africans and South Africans, and it starts with also just this constant reminder to creatives that you really do want to put out information there, first-hand information about your own work, your own body of work, so that we always have a source that we can go to. So that's why most of the times when we play local artists, it's very rare for us to give you the kind of quirky, comprehensive musical trivia and things you might not have known, because that's just not out there. You know what I mean? It's really just not out there. Anyway, we've got a interesting show for you this afternoon. We are looking at this research study that's being conducted. I think it's currently being conducted by a PhD candidate in health sciences from the Stellenbosch University, and she's looking at the urgent need for more indigenous midwives as part of rural health care, and we'll talk more about that. Also coming up, stages, pages, screens, and more today. We are going to be chatting to the folks at the International Marimba and Still Pan Festival that's set to happen next weekend, the 27th and 28th of July. We're going to catch up with the festival director. And then on the other side of 2 o'clock, because it is a Tuesday, we are delving into health and wellness matters, and we're talking all things pancreatitis and all things that pertain to the pancreatitis. So we're going to be catching up with a specialist physician and a pulmonologist in that area of practice, as well as catching up with the folks from Pink Drive. And we're going to find out more about what is on the agenda and campaign for 2024. It's just a few seconds before 1:15 o'clock. If you are in a hurry to get somewhere, let's take a quick pause here, and then we come back on the other side of this.
Here, there, and everywhere. SAFM 105.7 FM in Cape Town.
And because we're having a conversation, around indigenous midwives as a part of the rural health care system, I wonder if perhaps you, yourself, your family member have experienced a home birthing story, or perhaps a home birthing occasion, or maybe some kind of birthing pregnancy emergency that, had they been the intervention of somebody in your neighborhood, especially if maybe, you say Lalini, or you're a little bit far from the urban metro, had there been somebody in your neighborhood who had those necessary skills that you could call on to come and intervene at the time, it would have provided much needed intervention and, of course, that emergency relief. So I wonder, or even if you have not, because I think maybe just looking at the geographic sort of what's the word? Dispensation. I forgot the word of us. A lot of us live in urban metros, and so maybe a lot of people haven't experienced such situations. But I wonder what your thoughts are on midwives in essence, midwives being empowered to still practice and to still help people give birth. Is that something that you would consider? Joining us now is PhD candidate in health sciences at the Stellenbosch University, Hombagazi Mercy Ngadeka. Is it Ngadeka?
Ngandeka.
Ngandeka. Thank you very much, Mercy. Ngandeka. How are you?
Thank you, Bridget. I'm good, thanks, Bridget. How are you doing?
I'm great, thank you. So this is an interesting sort of field of study that you've embarked on. Tell us a bit more as to, and why is it of interest to you?
So I'm doing my PhD in a Faculty of Medicine and Health Sciences, and I'm in the Disability and Rehabilitation Center, and my focus is on indigenous knowledge health systems, and I work with indigenous healers. So within that, there is midwives, there is circumcision surgeons, there is herbalists, there is amagqirha, there's healers, spiritual healers, you name them. So what interested me is moving back to the villages in 2019. I did my master's in Ireland and France, and then I came back to the country, and then I lived in the village. And I realized, I was watching the health-seeking behavior of a patient, that when someone is sick, they'll start going to the local healer to check if they're okay. And then if something persists, the healer will refer them to the hospital. It's easy referral. They'll tell them, this is kind of beyond me. Or some healers even want to know, like, do you take your treatment, HIV, TB, what are you taking? And then they realize, someone has relapsed. That's why they are sick or anything. So they'll be like pushing them to the hospital. That's something they do. And then I realized that it wasn't the same at the hospital, that people would be referred and from back doors, you you look like this can't be solved here. But it's nurses who will come, or health practitioners will be like, maybe you want to try an indigenous heal. But it's something that's done in secrecy. So I was like asking myself, why? Why is it that the referral doesn't happen both sides? Why is it that the other side is regarded as all that? And then I found in literature that actually in South Africa in 1957 there was a law that was passed, Witchcraft Suppression Act, which was prohibiting, it also included indigenous healers being prohibited from practicing. So I was like, that's very interesting. It was lifted, of course, in 1994. But you can imagine the damage that this has done, that indigenous healing has been practiced in secrecy. Literature says that it has been regarded as backward, as timid, witchcraft, killing people, primitive, all the negative words. So it has all these negative connotations. It hasn't been given a platform to grow. It's been operating in secrecy since a long time. So I was interested in bringing it forth because when I read again in literature, it says 8 out of 10 Black South Africans consult an indigenous healer. And I was like, wow, 80%, that's a big number. And I was like, why has it been resilient? Why have people kept going there? There is attachments, spiritual attachments to it, and people's beliefs and our being, and people trusting that before, and also people coming from the hospital and wanting to be rebalanced back into their homes by an indigenous healer. So right there, I was like, there's something, and that is our form of healing, and I decided to study it. It's my second year in it now.
Yeah. Very interesting, I think, the field of study. And as you're talking, I'm just recalling, as recent as about a month ago, we were having a conversation. There is actually an organization that's doing something similar by way of incorporating traditional healers, herbalists, inyanga, isangoma, for instance, within the HIV and AIDS healthcare system as the primary source of consultation. And then obviously for referral later if things need to be referred to the more Western medicine practitioners. And now, interesting component to what you're studying is also the sort of the need for indigenous midwives. This is something in the back of my mind with my team. We thought, but midwives, whatever we call them in our respective languages, have been a part of African, Eastern, and by extension, even Western culture for time memoriam. When did things change where they then started being excluded from the system?
I think it's when the biomedical health, that is the Western health, the conventional health, was actually waged above the rest, when it was regarded as supreme and suppressing all the others. All the colonized places or continents, spaces in South America, somewhere in Asia and everywhere else, it has been suppressed. Like indigenous livelihoods at large have been compressed and suppressed into smallness and into non-existence at some point. You know, it is the resilience of indigenous people that has pushed these practices to be kept. Because remember, people were Christianized, and then this is like uncivilized, and then you're colonized, and you're a colony, and you have to do things according to whatever country has, whatever power has colonized you. So it is this imagining indigenous livelihoods as this clean slate that it has never been written on before, and they bring all these Western knowledges, which is the reality, and actually kicking everything that's local out of the window. So I think it's within that period that many, like, it's not just indigenous midwifery, but all indigenous livelihoods that we're talking about here. So I think it's within that space of time where the West was a thing, that everything Western is something that should be embraced and used, and all the indigenous health systems and otherwise and everything else is something negative. It's this connotation of negativity and being uneducated, untrained, and all that that is attached to these livelihoods.
And yet, I guess part and parcel of your research argues for the benefits of indigenous knowledges and indigenous health practices, and the benefits that they could hold not only for community but also for the more, what I term as, structured healthcare systems.
Yeah, because I mean, it is a health system, whether we want to acknowledge it or not. Whether the health system, the current health system, wants to acknowledge it or not, but it is a health system in structure. It is a health system that people go to. It is the first contact. All these health systems, like for example, I was walking, and I met a woman. She was very frustrated. I mean, I have nothing to do. I'm not a nurse, I'm not anything, but she was just frustrated. She needed a second eye. Her boy had an inflamed private part, and she was like, I don't know what to do. It's Easter weekend. My boy is in pain. Like I think it had to do with some infection or anything. And I asked her, is there an indigenous healer that you know, a man that you can go to who can help you? And she said, actually, yes. Let me bathe my child. And she quickly took her to the indigenous healer. I kid you not, when I passed there coming from elsewhere, I went somewhere else. When I passed their house, the boy was playing outside. The man had helped her. Now, imagine if that was not the case. You would have had to wait for Tuesday because Easter Monday is holiday.
Yeah.
And it is a lot of walking, crossing the river, blah, blah, blah. Like the 3-year-old boy in the back, it's very heavy and all. So the first contact, they are the first contact in a village context, in a rural context. So rural health is a thing. And it is indigenous health that people are familiar with, that they trust better. Because remember, again, people are also intimidated by institutions. Nobody likes going to the hospital. You're going to be tuned there sometimes. You're going to be neglected if you're pregnant. Some women give birth on the floor. It's reality. It's space. It's shortage of labor and all the other factors that come to that. So if we're chucking out indigenous health that could help and ease off this load, then what are we doing? Why are we doing that?
086 000 2032 is the number that you can call us on, or 061 410 4107 is our WhatsApp line. I wonder what's your thoughts around indigenous health systems and health practices, whether we're talking by way of utilizing a midwife and giving birth at home in the comfort of your home, or is Lalini, whether we're talking around you consulting a traditional healer, Sangoma Enyanga. What is your perspective? Do you think that we should be incorporating more of these indigenous health services and knowledges into our day-to-day living? Should they be more structured? Should they be incorporated into the formalized, I use the word very loosely, the formalized healthcare system? Are you a believer in them at all? Would you opt for a home birth versus going into the hospital? Do you see the benefits of, utilizing a midwife and having your children born at home? 061-410-4107 is the WhatsApp line, and 086-000-2032 is the number that you can call us on as we talk about indigenous health care systems. We'd like to hear your perspective on that. It then begs the question, Hombagazi Uti, is it a case of maybe people, as we ask this of our listeners, you say that 8 out of 10 people already consult indigenous healers in one form or another. In order for them to be taken sort of more professionally and viewed more professionally, should we be considering integrating them into the more Western systems of healthcare? Whether it's by way of maybe even, ensuring that midwives, for instance, are somehow Western.
Sorry, I lost you there.
Oh, sorry, I heard the beep actually. I wonder, in incorporating the systems into, the indigenous, incorporating indigenous into the Western healthcare systems, should it be a case that maybe when we look at midwives, for instance, and midwifery, that maybe it's a case of getting them certified by some kind of Western program in order for them to then be practicing without sort of the legal infringements that come with them practicing in the old ways?
So I think it's very problematic to try to certify them according to Western standards, because again they will fall short. So I always make this example. Are you still there?
Yes, I'm listening.
Yeah, okay. I make an example that there is circumcision surgeons in our culture, in the Xhosa culture, in the villages, and those people are registered with the Department of Health, just the way they are, doing the work that they do. They are registered with indigenous leaders, traditional leaders in the village. Nobody is going to be a surgeon and they are not known by the chief in the village. So the same order that is used in registering them, and they foster the work, the boys need to go and get tested in the hospital, they need to get letters that actually allow them to go and get circumcised if they are the right age from the chief. It's the same routine that can be followed, using the traditional administration that already exists, and it is incorporated into the different departments. For example, the chief does go sometimes to the police, to do affidavits for different cases, specific cases that they need to go for. It is a chief, it is the parent, it is the department that is within that space. So there is a way, it's not difficult to do that, because it's something that's being done. It's something that's working. It's a model that works, because they work from their homes. They don't go to the hospital and circumcise the boys there. The boys come to them. So it's the same way, like if the government of the Department of Health wants to register, there are ways of reaching them at their space in the villages.
All right, let's take a quick pause here for the headline news. We'll come back though and continue the conversation. 061-410-4107 is our WhatsApp line. 086-000-2032 is the number that you can call us on. We'd love to hear your thoughts around indigenous health care systems and practitioners. And have you ever utilized them? Would you consider home births, for instance, in such situations? What are your thoughts around that? Or do you think that maybe more structure, more formalization, more certification is required before you can trust in the skills of, particularly if we're looking at midwives, for instance, in the modern context? It's just gone 1:30 on the Full Circle.
Very much, Bridge, and a very good afternoon. With the news headlines, ke Modupi Makgalemele. The case against former Sports, Arts and Culture Minister Zizi Kodwa and his co-accused has been postponed to the 21st of August in the Palm Ridge Magistrates Court in Gauteng. The Assets Forfeiture Unit, the SIU and the Hawks are currently in a joint operation in Mpumalanga to seize assets and properties of those linked to a 52 million rand corruption network within the Provincial Public Works Department. And China says 14 Palestinian factions have agreed to set up an interim national reconciliation government for Gaza after the war ends. I'll be back with a full news update at 2.
Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
So our lines are open on 086 000 2032 and 061 410 4107 is our WhatsApp line. And we're having a conversation around indigenous health practices and indigenous healers. And we're talking around midwives, for instance, indigenous midwives, and should they be recognized and allowed to complement the national healthcare system. And this is a question that forms part of a broader sort of a piece of research by PhD candidates in health sciences at Stellenbosch University, Uhombagazi, who's joining us for this conversation. Thabo in Tabanchu, how are you?
Very well, thank you. Yourself?
I'm awesome, Thabo. Thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah, look, I personally support any initiative that has to do with restoring the indigenous knowledge systems in our country, because really, as your guest was saying, a very high percentage of people, African people in this country, still practice these indigenous knowledge systems, whether it's through healing, health, or for spirituality. However, my point is we need to come to a point where through academic institutions like your guest is doing, where we formalize these indigenous knowledge systems. And the reason for that is to clear any doubt that people might have regarding the validity and the effectiveness of these practices. Because, you know, there's a lot of people that take chances. I mean, I'm not even scared to say a lot of foreigners, every corner, township, you know, they can restore your marriage, they can enlarge your penis, they can do all sorts of things. You know, they're just scamming people. That's why people tend to be very negative towards anything that has to do with indigenous healers or indigenous knowledge systems. So we need to really formalize it. And for that reason, we'll be able to pass it on to the next generation and preserve it. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Thabo. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Josiho, how are you from Centurion? You good?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. Go ahead.
You know, I really appreciate umsebenzi uHambakazi is doing. I'm in training in indigenous midwifery myself. And even in the city, we come across these challenges where a lot of practices are accepted only because they are structured in a westernized way. Like one of the things that I can mention right now is what you do with a placenta. A lot of people are so willing to accept ubuti in the Western ways that people are encapsulating placentas and they're drinking them and everything.
Yeah.
However, when I suggested to my clients, ubuti, hey, how about we take a placenta and we treat it in a certain way because traditionally this is how it's done. A lot of people are resistant to it because of their indigenous background to it and attitudes around it. So the moment you mention a midwife and add on to that an indigenous midwife, we experience a lot of pushback in our work.
Yeah. Do you think that we just what is it? I mean, you practice. So what are the conversations around our reluctance, with indigenous midwives? Because, for instance, I was saying to my producers when they put this on the table, I said, well, my mind only draws connection to midwifery from a traditional sense, right? Whether we're talking African customs and cultures, Eastern customs and cultures. Then I had to remember that even the Caucasians back in the days of, the Vikings and all the rest also utilized midwives. And then I said to them, well, is it a case because we now have a word for it in the Western language where we call it midwifery, that we think it's a different thing to what you practice in Centurion as a Black African person?
So, there's like two things here that I'd like to address. Firstly, I think there's an issue of fear. A lot of times now when I suggest to a client, because I'm a doula by practice.
Okay.
But when I suggest to a client that, I would recommend that you actually use a midwife for your birth, the feedback is always that they were advised against it by medical practitioners because a midwife is just a nurse.
Mm-hmm.
And now when you add another layer to it, now when you bring in an indigenous midwife, then there's like major pushback because now the person is not educated, seemingly, you know, and so people, I don't know why we are like so resistant to it, to indigenous practices, but a lot of times I've noticed there's an element of fear to it, and some of it is legit because when you become a parent, you now want to definitely protect your child from everything that could come. But once you instill a sense of fear about it, you know, if you go the midwife route, then a lot of things could go wrong.
I get you.
It's understandable that people then are fearful and they don't want to use a midwife. And it's so weird as well when we talk to prospective clients and then when you start talking about indigenous midwives and we're practically standing over them.
Yeah.
You know, and for us, they're like rock stars.
I get you.
A lot of people don't get it because, I mean, can you imagine even explaining to them that, you know, a midwife actually touches you with their hands and they feel the baby and everything. A lot of people are just accepting which there will be a scan and then a urine test and you walk out.
Khosigo, thank you so much for sharing your perspective. Thank you very much. And Khosigo, as you heard, is a doula who works, quite hand in hand with midwives. And I think as much as we're having this conversation, Hombagazi, we also can't stray away from like the sentiment that Khosigo brings up at the end that perhaps the reluctance to use systems of yesteryear like midwives is us also knowing the advancements that have been made in Western medication and understanding also the risks that come with things like childbirth. And it ties back to what I was saying earlier that would it ease then the sort of the openness to and the willingness to have these practices if maybe there was a more Western trained program that accompanied the indigenous knowledge?
Yeah, so it's always about the PR and endorsement in that regard, because what we're still in now is the Western system saying, no, it's wrong. You should always go to the hospital, you know. But the reality on the ground is that these women have birthed men and women now who are older and have their own children. And they continue to birth children. We had a case in the village, I think a month ago, of a woman who helped, a midwife, indigenous midwife, who helped a mother of twins birth her twins. And she was told at the hospital that she would need a cesarean. But the water broke and we were very far from the hospital. She was still jumping on the bakkie, 10 kilometers in. It was too late. The water broke. And the indigenous midwife helped her birth easily, you know. There was no complications. Again, it's a matter of complementing each other, you know. If, for example, there is spaces created for these women, like a rendezvous in the village where the indigenous midwives are able to operate, and there is a nurse from a nearby clinic who works hand in hand, it's not a matter of, oh, okay, you're doing it in indigenous way, okay, I'm going to leave you to it. It's going to fail, you're going to have complications, you're going to have problems, and then you'll be liable, litigation and all that, because that's the attitude that's out there now, that we want to see it failing, going dismally, going wrong. But in reality, I was speaking to my mom last night, and I was asking my mom, Mama, how many cases of children who die in the hands of indigenous midwives? And she couldn't recall. She couldn't recall, you know. She's like, it's very rare because normally it's a lot of women, older women, grandmothers who are helping, who are doing this job. Not that it doesn't happen, but I kid you not, in the village, people will know when someone has a complicated pregnancy. They do know because when someone gets pregnant, they go to the clinic, they go to the hospital, they get checked, and on, like the blood pressure is high or she's diabetic and everything. Once that woman hits the 9th month or whenever the scan date is predicted to, the older women will push her to go stay at a home that's nearby a hospital. You know, where if anything happens, she's closer. So it's not like their eyes are closed and they don't know what they're doing. They don't know who they're dealing with. They will know. They'll push them. They go to a relative, stay there like for maybe a week before, you know. So it's not like they don't know. It's a matter of like endorsement. It's a matter of seeing this as a practice that happens, that as experienced women, again, because you're saying uneducated, but uneducated according to whose standards? Because these women are educated in this. They have been doing this. So it is a matter of working together, holding hands, agreeing to. Because now it's a matter of whose PR is louder, and then that goes, and who is against who, pharmaceutical, and on and on and on.
I want to just sneak in one or two, because I don't want to take time from my next conversation. I just want to sneak in one or two voice notes and a call. Let's go to WhatsApp.
Such an interesting topic. I don't know if it was an SAFM, but on one of the channels I was once listening to a program where there is a, so to say, Western doctor that had published a book, or was in the process of publishing a book, about all the non-Western cultured medicines, so that it was actually formalized. All these traditional medicines and what they are, and pictures of them and what they treat. Very interesting subject matter. Quite amazingly, I was watching on one of the National Geographic channels how in one of the Western countries this is actually being studied, where they're actually looking at all the cultural medicines and actually testing what the actual benefits are. And I think it's a great thing. I don't always like taking the Western medicines for every single ailment. As I say, there's always a side effect to every medicine, Western medicine you take. Very interesting subject.
061-410-4107 is our WhatsApp line, and 086-000-2032 is the number that you can call us on as we continue this conversation with the sounds of Hambagazi's goats in the background, adding to the whole texture of us talking about indigenous healthcare systems. Let's take a quick pause on it. We'll come back on the other side and continue.
Stages, pages, screens, and more.
Be prepared to perform with Bridgestone. Purchase 2 or more tyres at participating dealers and stand a chance to win your share of 2 million rand worth of Samsung products ranging from phones, tablets and TVs. Enter now at bridgestone.co.za. T's and C's apply. Bridgestone. Prepare to perform.
It's Winter Carnival at Food Lovers Market. Get 28-day matured beef rump steak for only $99.99 per kilo. Beef biltong or Dravos for a low $199.99 per kilo. Beef potjiekos stew for $69.99 per kilo. And 2 500-gram packs of Food Lovers lean beef mince for just $79.99. Valid till this Sunday at Food Lovers Market. Winter Carnival now on.
S3 is bringing you the best in Indian cinema every Sunday at 2 p.m. Laugh, dance, get drawn into the drama, revved up with the action, and maybe, just maybe, shed a little tear. Catch Gagi on the 7th of July, Selfie on the 14th, Prince on the 21st, and Laila Majnu on the 28th. It's Indian cinema like you've never seen it before. Channel your best entertainment with Indian cinema only on S3. Open up.
S3. SAFM, leading the conversation.
086-000-2032 is the number that you can call us on, and 061-410-4107 is our WhatsApp line. If you'd like to send through a WhatsApp voice note, we are talking around indigenous healthcare systems and indigenous healers. We're looking at all kinds of subgenres underneath that, including, of course, midwives and the utilization of midwives in home births. And we wondered if, you've ever encountered or utilized, what is your preference when it comes to Western medical practices and Western health systems versus indigenous health systems? And I'm coming to you in a moment, Ngwatu in Tsanin. For now, Muhlomi in Velkom sent us a message saying that their mom gave birth to 14 of them. This was between 1921 and 1949, and all grew up normally with no mishaps whatsoever. Can't even fathom giving birth to 14 kids, let alone 14 home births. Oh my goodness. That's a heavy
alone
number.
4.
Let alone 4. Imagine. Then you add a whole 10 to it. My goodness.
Of course.
Let's go to Ngwatu in Tsanin. How are you?
I'm all right. How are you?
I'm good, thank you, brother. Go ahead.
Okay. The topic is so interesting. I think you are right. We, especially as Africans, we will all appreciate that kind of conversation. But I think our challenge with all our indigenous systems is mainly accountability. How do we guard against people not doing the right thing? We need to have a system which says, for you to have done the right thing, if you have done this and this and that, and then if you didn't do this and this and that, then how do you account for those things? Because I think the Western systems, they are ahead of us simply because the processes are clear, and we know if a person has not done this right, if he has not done this and that.
Yeah.
But with indigenous systems, it's difficult because what you are doing in somewhere in Eastern Cape, we might do the same thing, but process might be different if I'm doing it in Ghanaian.
I hear you.
And we might even differ even if we are staying in the same village because it's also informed by spirituality. I would say, no, my ancestors said I must do it this way. How are you going to put me accountable?
I hear you.
Your ancestors are telling you different.
Thank you so much for your contribution. Thank you. And of course, our lines and our WhatsApps are open. And that's an interesting one, right, guys? Because it speaks to accountability, but it also speaks to maybe a system of common practice, which I think has been guidelines. That's it. And when you were talking, for instance, around circumcision surgeons in some of the rural areas where we've had successful circumcision seasons, it's because there's been those guidelines that have been incorporated with the indigenous practices and norms, but there's been, other things that have come through to sort of bolster it, to say, okay, this is what we do, the best practices and guidelines.
Yeah, I mean, there should be. That's why I was saying, like, in terms of registration with the Department of Health, that is holding people accountable. Already in the space of, for example, indigenous healers, there is the Department of Health is working with them, and they are trying to come up with such guidelines and holding people accountable, like registering, like when you have some patients, how many patients do you have, what do they have, what is going on. So there is that, the such formations. It's still something happening at a very small scale, slower than it's supposed to happen. But I will tell you, indigenous healers are willing. I've been in workshops, a couple of them, with the nearby hospital. And indigenous healers do come forward and they're saying, things have changed. There has been corona in the room. There has been HIV. We have had to change. We have had to adjust. We have had to work with the hospitals because sometimes we don't know what to do in certain cases. So they are very willing. So I think there is also a connotation that indigenous healers don't want to account. They don't want to come forward. They don't want to go to the Department of Health. That is not the reality on the ground. It's not what I've seen in reality. They do want to. So if there are going to be guidelines devised, it is going to be with the indigenous healers, and it helps that way to work with them, not a top-down approach, but a bottom-up approach. Absolutely. What do they want to see in the space? It's very important. Yeah.
Temba in the Northern Cape, how are you?
I'm all right, and you, ma'am?
I'm good. Go ahead.
Oh, thank you. I also want to participate. My wife, on the 3rd of July this month, she gave birth in the house in Pretoria.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Was that by choice or was that just because emergency?
No, it's like it was by choice. It's the prophets who said she mustn't go to hospital because she once had how can I call it, a baby, another pregnancy.
A miscarriage? A stillbirth?
Okay. A stillbirth, exactly, yeah. So they said that, it's like there was something like spiritual. So she must go to the prophets.
Did you utilize a midwife?
The midwife is from the church, the prophet sent us to that midwife in Pretoria, in Mamelodi.
Okay. And everything went well?
Everything went well. The only problem happened when she was at the hospital.
Okay.
So that they will check the child. they to interrogate her. Why did you give birth in the house? This and that. What if something happens? And a lot of things. Till now, the baby doesn't have a birth certificate because they said I said I want the baby to be in my name because all my kids are in my name. Yeah.
Okay, Temba, thank you so much for sharing your story. That was Temba, who gave birth at home. Successful birth. We love successful births. We've fast run out of time, Hombagazi. Literally, we have to leave it with Temba's feel-good story. Thank you for sharing your journey and, of course, the work that you've undertaken with us. That was Hombagazi Mercy Ngandeka, and she's a PhD candidate in health sciences, a second-generation PhD candidate, by the way, from the Stellenbosch University. It's just gone 10 to 2 o'clock. We see some of your voice notes around this topic. We'll try and sneak in some on the other side of 2.
This program was brought to you by SABC Education. Enriching minds, enriching lives.
Hello everyone, my name is Munira and I'm 10 years old. When people make comments of my height, I feel proud, to be honest, because I'm shorter than others, I'm faster than them, and some tall kids can't even catch me. Personally, any height, body shape, and skin tone makes us all unique and special. Thank you for listening, ladies and gentlemen. Have a good day.
Hello everyone, my name is Ashley Kabamba. Like most people, I would tend to feel insecure if someone were to make comments about my skin color, body shape, or height. I really think it's not a good thing for people to make comments about someone else's appearance unless they are positive comments, mainly because negative comments towards other people can cause the other person to feel that they are not enough or beautiful. The person will start having a low self-esteem. Yes, there were actually many times I wanted to change something about my appearance just because of something someone said about it. One thing I have wished I wanted to change was the amount of acne I have on my face, because to me I feel like I'm the only one who has this, which makes me feel less perceived.
My name is Ruflupela Ratogwam. When someone comments bad things about my body, it makes me feel uncomfortable and think that my body image is bad. But I always tell myself that I was born like this. I can't change the way I was born. My friend once said that I'm too tall to be his friend. And it made me feel very sad because I didn't choose to be like this. I was born like this. To adults that say such things, do not make comments about children's bodies because you are the ones that are setting an example for us.
Hello everyone, I'm Ushfika Talib. Let's talk about a type of bullying called body shaming. Firstly, what is body shaming? It's when somebody else makes cruel judgments and mocks you for your physical appearance, like the way you look or the shape and size of your body. Making rude comments about someone else's looks is really cruel and can hurt the other person's feelings. Body shaming is not okay because it can cause stress and anxiety towards the other person, making them uncomfortable in their own skin, and eventually gets out of control. Yes, one thing I wanted to change about myself was my height. I used to be a bit taller than most of my friends, but I realized that my height was a good thing and I learned to love it. And those friends of mine that used to comment about my height were just insecure about their own. Before you make a comment about someone else's body, ask yourself if you would want to hear cruel things said about your body. Remember to always show respect and kindness to everyone you meet. Thank you for listening. Bye.
Hello everybody. My name is Karabo Malebo. It makes me really sad when someone comments or talks about my body. For instance, like when I'm big and they start commenting on my body, it's really not nice. One of my friends has told me to start gymming because I need to lose a lot of weight. But I didn't really feel comfortable and I didn't really feel happy about what she said about my body, because it's not nice when people are busy commenting about your body and all that things. If my parents were to say that to me, I would tell them to stop, because it's really not nice when you are body shaming someone. If you're telling them that they're too big to turning your short and stuff like that. because it makes other people feel bad and sad and all those things.
Good day, my name is Mane Angel Nagavera. How I feel when people make comments about my skin color, body shape, or height is that it hurts me if it's a negative comment and it brings my self-esteem low. But if it's a positive comment, then obviously I'll be happy or I feel more confident about the way I look. I think it's okay for people to make comments about somebody's appearance if it is a positive comment, and if it's a negative comment, obviously it's not a good thing because you hurting somebody's feelings or you making them feel bad about themselves and how they look. No, I've never wanted to change something about my appearance because of something that somebody said.
Hello, my name is Bana Ramadi. When someone makes comments about my body, I don't care and I don't take it seriously and think about it all the time. Once someone said I'm skinny and I didn't care. I wasn't angry, sad, or felt shame to myself. I didn't think about it all the time and it didn't go in my head. To all adults that say such things, they are rude, mean, and disrespectful, and they should be kind to kids and respectful, and not to say bad stuff to kids.
Hello there! I hope you're having a great Tuesday. Today, let's talk about the importance of knowing how to communicate when someone's negative remarks about your body, height, or skin color at school or home make you uncomfortable. These comments can be hurtful and make you feel sad. But remember, you have the right to speak up and let others know how their words affect you. Here are some steps you can take to express yourself in such situations. Firstly, it's okay to tell the person how their comment impacted you. You can say something like, "When you said that, it hurt my feelings." This helps them understand the impact of their words. Sometimes they may not realize that their words are hurtful, and letting them know can help them be more considerate. Secondly, you can choose to walk away if the situation becomes overwhelming. It's perfectly fine to remove yourself from a place where you feel uncomfortable. You don't have to subject yourself to mean comments. Walking away shows self-respect and a desire to avoid negativity. Thirdly, talking to a trusted adult can be very helpful. This could be a parent, teacher, or another family member. Inform them about the situation and how it affects you. They can offer advice on handling the situation and provide support. Sometimes sharing your feelings with someone who cares can make a significant difference. Fourthly, remember to be kind to yourself. Negative comments can be hurtful, but it's important to focus on your positive qualities. Reflect on what makes you unique and special. Concentrate on your strengths and things you like about yourself. Positive self-talk can boost your confidence and mood. Finally, surround yourself with positive and supportive individuals. It's important to have friends who uplift you and make you feel good about yourself. Choose to spend time with those who bring out the best in you and make you happy. This will empower you to be stronger and less impacted by negativity. Always remember that you have the ability to control how you react to negative remarks and prioritize self-care. Standing up for yourself, seeking encouragement, and concentrating on the positive aspects can boost your confidence and overall well-being.
This program was brought to you by SABC Education. Enriching minds, enriching lives.
Top stories at 2 o'clock. Zizi Kodwa formally charged with corruption and a hawks raid underway in Mpumalanga. A very good afternoon. The case against former Sports, Arts and Culture Minister Zizi Kodwa and his co-accused has been postponed to the 21st of August in the Palm Ridge Magistrates Court. The legal representative for the duo has put in an application for further particulars and has given the state a chance to reply. Kodwa and EOH boss Jahan McKay appeared yet again this morning and were charged with corruption. Gauteng NPA spokesperson Pindim Jonondwane says the state is ready.
So the court has provided us with the indulgence to
consider his application and thereafter respond to it. So the accused are within their rights to exercise all the recourse mechanisms. So we are hoping as the MPA that we will be in a position to deal with all those interlocutory applications before the trial stage. But as the MPA, we are ready to proceed.
The Assets Forfeiture Unit, the SIU, and the Hawks are currently in a joint operation in Mpumalanga to seize assets and properties of those linked to a 52 million rand corruption network within the Provincial Public Works. This relates to 2020 to 2021 PPE tenders within the department. SIU spokesperson Kaiser Khanyago.
The assets and properties are linked to the 22 senior management officials, service providers and entities in an alleged corruption network within the Mpumalanga Department of Public Works. The seizure follows the preservation court order from the High Court of South Africa Mpumalanga Division, Mbombela, obtained by the Asset Forfeiture Unit. The operation includes serving orders at 34 locations simultaneously and the capturing of inventory of 29 properties, 31 vehicles and a bomb. The court order freezes properties such as houses, electronics, cars, household items, jewelry, arms, ammunition, bank accounts, salaries and bail monies.
Scores of MK party supporters have gathered along the Beyers Naudé Square in Joburg, a few meters from the ANC's Luthuli House. This as former ANC President Jacob Zuma is appearing before the party's disciplinary committee on a virtual platform. He's been charged under the ANC constitution after endorsing the MK party in the recent elections. The MK party's Gama Mazibuko says the former president should have been allowed to present himself physically before the committee.
Our president is always a people's person and he believes in warm bodies when he deals with matters. So as he wanted to be there in person, he wanted to deal and to look at people that he's dealing with. But anyway, I cannot say much. Let's let the processes unfold and we'll take it from there.
The legal counsel for suspended Judge Dintswalo Makubele has sought to poke holes in submissions by complainants and the evidence leader in the probe looking into her alleged misconduct. Advocate Thabani Masuku says there's been no evidence submitted to the Judicial Conduct Tribunal that Makubele intentionally aimed to mislead the judiciary by not disclosing that she was still PRASA chairperson when she started her duties as a judge. Closing arguments are being heard in the matter following a 2019 complaint against Makubele by the civic organization Unite Behind. Masuku elaborates.
In paragraph 314 of their submissions, when they've spoken about what the difficulties they have, this is what they seek the tribunal to draw inference or to conclude. That Justice Makubele acted intentionally to further an illicit, unknown purpose. Let me stop there. Is there evidence that Justice Makubele intentionally or unintentionally furthered an illicit purpose? We submit there was none. The complainants have not submitted a single shred of evidence that support that kind of conclusion.
And China says 14 Palestinian factions have agreed to set up an interim national reconciliation government for Gaza after the war ends. It follows talks in Beijing between representatives from each group, including Hamas and Fatah. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi says the representatives inked the declaration pledging to end division and strengthen unity.
The core result is that it is clear that the Palestine Liberation Organization is the only legitimate representative of the Palestinian people. The most prominent highlight is the agreement to form an interim national reconciliation government around the governance of post-war Gaza.
The top story at 2, the case against former Sports and Arts and Culture Minister Zizi Kodwa and his co-accused has been postponed to the 21st of August in the Palm Ridge Magistrates Court in Gauteng. The Full Circle continues. For SAFM News, Kemudupi Makhalemeli.
The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga, Monday to Friday, 1 to 3 p.m.
getting better? Or do you feel the same? Will it make it easier on you now? You got someone to blame. You say one love, one life, it's one need, and one love, get to share it. Leaves you, darling, you don't care for it. Mary,
did I disappoint you or leave a bad taste in your mouth? You act like you never had love, and you want me to go without. Well, it's too late tonight to drag the past out into the light. We're one, but we're not the same. We get to carry each other, carry each other. Have you come here for forgiveness? Have you come to raise the dead? Have you come here to play Jesus to the lepers in your head? Well, did I ask too much? More than a lot. You gave me nothing, now it's all I got. We're one, but we're not the same. See, we had each other, then we do it again. You said love is a temple, love is a higher law. Love is a temple, love is a higher law. You asked for me to enter, but then you made me crawl, and I can't keep holding on to what you got, 'cause all you got is hurt. One love, one love, one life. You got to do what you should. One life with each other, sisters and my brothers. One life, but we're not the same. We get to carry each other, carry each other.
Mary J. Blige. Mary J. Blige with you too on this one. Beautiful song. We speak a lot about this song. Beautiful song. It's called One. That is how we kick off the second hour of the show. It's just gone 10 past 2 o'clock. Listen, on the back of our first hour conversation that we pushed the entire hour because it was so interesting and you guys were so vested in it, we've been having offline conversations with my team around just birthing, birthing in general, the various birthing options that are available to women, perhaps even the lack of knowledge and advocacy for themselves, women, and just advocating as for what it is that they want and how it is that they want it. I think we oftentimes probably go into these scenarios relying so much on the medical advice of our doctors and those who are overseeing, that we ourselves don't proactively go and learn about all the various options, the various risks and challenges and benefits of every option, and then choose some kind of birthing plan that we think is going to be best for, our journeys. And of course, every birthing plan must have a fail-safe backup plan to it. What happens in the worst case scenario? And so it's been very interesting, just, the conversations. And let me just, by the way, also sort of put the disclaimer out there that in the conversations, so on the team, including myself, it's 4 women, 1 man. And we're having these conversations, and from the 4 women, 1 man, only 1 woman and 1 man have a family who've gone through the journey, and everyone else, we kind of just speaking, with no experience whatsoever. But we write it off as knowledge sharing. Right. So coming up in this hour, what we're trying to do is we're trying to work our clock around. We want to have the conversation around pancreatitis, which is the conversation we should be having now. It is Tuesday in Health and Wellness, but our pulmonologist is currently actually doing her job of being a specialist physician in this space. And so we're just trying to see if we can move the good doctor to the other side of 2 o'clock. And then, of course, we're also still hoping to have that conversation around stages pages with the International Marimba and Still Pan Festival. But yeah, in the meantime, though, maybe let's actually double back to some of your thoughts around our previous conversation. You shared some of your thoughts and opinions on our WhatsApp line. 061-410-4107 is our WhatsApp line. Let's go to your perspective on that.
Good afternoon, Bridget. We're speaking to St. Jenkins all the way from Polokwane, Bochum. Yeah, Bridget, actually I want to know that what are the things that Department of Health offers to those traditional leaders who are doing the circumcision process? Actually, what are they giving them, the foods or the medication? Actually, I want to know which kind of the things do they offer to those traditional leaders. Thank you.
Hi to you and the listeners. I believe that our best practice is going to be a mix of Western medication and traditional medication. Western medication is wonderful when you need something done immediately or seen to immediately. There's imaging. There are medications that can bring a person's blood pressure down remarkably quickly. As somebody who had a very complicated pregnancy myself, I had a C-section. That's nowadays Western medication. But I had a midwife looking after me, and she was also a traditional healer, and she assisted me in the birth, where she was monitoring me as my birthing partner. And if she had not been there to insist that the doctors do the C-section, there's a chance that my child and I wouldn't have survived it. But there was a balanced approach, and then there's a respect at times between the two schools of medicine, and it's just better outcomes for everyone involved.
Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
And I think that was part of our offline conversation as well, was that maybe we need to incorporate a sort of holistic approach to our birthing plans, particularly as women. You can absolutely have your Western doctor, your OBGYN, but if you can be in a position to also have a doula or a midwife or whatever, somebody else with a different perspective and a different eye And it goes back to what I was saying about maybe even us doing some research. And this is not just the preserve of women, but if you are in a partnership with somebody and they are pregnant with your child, maybe a little bit of research as to what are the various options that are out there for you to utilize and how can they sort of work together and be incorporated into each other to give you a more holistic approach, particularly to your birthing plan. We've got Nelius Dupre now, who's the National Marketing and Event Coordinator at Pink Drive. We're still kind of sticking to a health theme, but of a slightly different note. How are you doing, Nelius? You good?
I'm doing very well, and thanks, and you?
I'm fantastic. Thank you. Thank you for taking the time. I know that you're out being a good parent at a hockey match right now, and you're having to step away to take this conversation, so we appreciate it. Let's talk firstly around Pink Drive. Tell us a little bit about the kind of work that you guys do as an organization.
Well, Pink Drive, for those who do not know, we are the mobile mammography unit that we travel around with in South Africa, where we focus on education, screening and awareness of gender-based cancers. Mostly that we do with the breast cancer is your breast examination, ultrasound, as well as the mammograms. And on the cervical cancer side, we do the pap smears. And for the men, we also focus on you. We do not leave you behind. We have the PSA screening that we deliver to those who are medically uninsured.
Now, we know that cancer is obviously a pressing issue in South Africa, and there's actually data suggests that there's a rise in incidences and mortality rates. Talk to us a little bit about, the importance of mobile units like yourselves in reaching perhaps those communities that have either been forgotten or those communities that don't have access to healthcare systems and knowledge.
Definitely. So Pink Drive, as we are the mobile service, we take the service to the individuals, and we travel to the most rural areas that we can deliver the services. Also, not just the rural areas, but sometimes it's a service that's not available even in the areas, the more urban areas. And for those who cannot afford the private sector, we offer the service then for free to those who cannot afford it. And rural areas, it's very far out. We know that some of these people need to travel anything from 200 to 800 kilometers to get to the nearest mammography facility. And then we are very privileged to have funders such as Vuma, for instance, that make it possible for us to reach these communities and the very rural areas where these services are much needed.
I want to take just a quick pause here for a second, Nelius, and just get our ad break out of the way, and then we'll come back on the other side of this and continue our conversation centering around the important work that Pink Drive undertakes.
Here, there, and everywhere. SAFM 106.6 FM in Bloemfontein.
S3 is bringing you the best in Indian cinema every Sunday at 2 p.m. Laugh, dance, get drawn into the drama, revved up with the action, and maybe, just maybe, shed a little tear. Catch Gagi on the 7th of July, Selfie on the 14th, Prince on the 21st, and Laila Majnu on the 28th. It's Indian cinema like you've never seen it before. Channel your best entertainment with Indian cinema only on S3. Open up.
S3. Yeah, we can do this. It's been a long time coming. This deserves to grow. It's a great business. If they don't like it, someone else will. And fund me so I can expand. Maybe I can offer them shares. I need to retain equity for staff. It's going to be good for recruitment. Yeah.
Possible begins with that one great idea. When Telkom enables entrepreneurs to make their ingenuity a reality, we grow local economies. Telkom. Possible begins here.
The Rockets are assigned to question the German way of the beautiful game in a South African style. They want to start the new season with a coveted trophy. But FC Augsburg want to conclude their tour to Mzansi with a great result leading to the new German Bundesliga season. Mpumalanga Province will vibrate when TS Galaxy and FC Augsburg lock horns. This is the Mpumalanga Premiers International Cup 2024. Catch the spectacular contest between TS Galaxy FC and FC Augsburg on Saturday, 27 July at 2:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4, SABC 1 and SABC radio stations. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. #We love it here. Tickets are available at CompuTicket. Proudly brought to you by the TS Galaxy Foundation and SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
We are catching up with Nelius Dupree, who is the National Marketing and Event Coordinator at Pink Drive. And of course, they are an organization that seeks to reach out to communities that have limited access to health care. And they focused around screening of gender-based cancers. And maybe let's get an understanding of that as well, Nelius, as to, what categories of cancers are we talking about when we talk around gender-based cancers?
Well, gender-based cancers is for the ladies, it's your cervical as well as your breast cancer. And on the male side, we have the prostate and testicular cancer that we focus on. So we do the education, the awareness, and of course the screening of these cancers.
And over the 15 years of Pink Drive, you guys have actually reached quite a significant number of people within community, with almost 500,000 clinical breast exams and more than 27,000 mammograms already undertaken. Just the importance of educating people around these gender-related cancers, and I think particularly men, because men are often very reluctant to go for any kind of screening, or they think that they are exempt and excluded from cancers such as breast cancer.
Definitely. I think that the more education one can get out, the better. The more awareness you can create, the even more better that we can do. Because at the end of the day, we believe also that early detection can help prolong a life. And if we can educate individuals to do the early screening and the early detection, we can definitely save more lives. So men must also know that they can get breast cancer. It's not just for the ladies, and it's everything about awareness, education, spreading the word, and helping those who are not be able to reach these services. And that's where I think Vuma plays a very important role when it comes to internet supplying with the fiber lines that they install. Is individuals in the most remote areas, people in the other areas like the remote side of Johannesburg, Pretoria, everywhere where they reach out and install the microfiber lines, it assists those in the areas to reach Pink Drive and to get more information about the gender-based cancers. And to get the information on our website, it's www.pinkdrive.org, and they can read up about it, they can get informed about it, they can get educated about it. So internet also plays a very big role when it comes to spreading the news and getting the awareness out there.
And in fact, speaking of Vuma, you guys have partnered up for a mammogram and pap smear drive that's going to be happening in Soweto. Has it happened already? I know it was for Mandela Day, but you're extending it for Mandela Month, right?
No, it was for Mandela Day. And last week in Soweto at the Green Village Clinic, Vuma was not just connecting everybody with the internet in the area, but they also kept the people warm. Some of the patients were very privileged to have a nice hot coffee, a tea, as well as a nice hot chocolate while waiting to have a mammogram. And then, of course, we had the pap smears for the ladies also offered on the day. So now Vuma has been a real hero last week, assisting Pink Drive getting these services.
Yeah.
And it's also just having it more comfortably waiting for your service to be delivered by Pink Drive, sitting on a nice hot chocolate supplied by Vuma.
Yeah. And how was the uptake on the day, particularly within the Soweto community?
It was amazing. Just the amount of people that came out on the day, and when they see the truck arrive, it's even more intriguing for them. So they want to see what's happening at the clinic. And, of course, it was a chilly day in Johannesburg. We will always be chilly when it comes to early mornings. And then Buma was very, very nice. They even supplied to these ladies with blankets to take home. So they're also spreading the winter chills not to be in the house, but they're covering the families with some blankets as well.
Yeah. Talk to us about, I read somewhere that one of the biggest problems that you'll see with the work that you do with Pink Drive is that, folks arrive at public health facilities, clinics, etc., at advanced or late stages of cancer. And so they're not getting the treatment that they need. How do we make that intervention to get more people screened on time and to get people accessing health care services and support that they need, at the early stages of diagnosis?
As we all know, in the government side, there's only a certain amount of hospitals that can offer the mammogram screening. And if we can get more support from corporates and individuals to be able to fund Pink Drive, to reach more clinics on a daily basis like what we do, the better. The more that we can keep the trucks going and moving, educating, awareness, spreading, as well as the actual screening, the more we can do. So we call out on corporates to please make contact and assist us to make it available for those who are medically uninsured, who are in the rural areas that do not have a facility and the means to then get to the nearest screening hospital.
And by way of Pink Drive, Nelius, and the communities that you go in, do you sort of circle back to a community once you've been, and then maybe the following year you circle back again, either to screen new sort of patients, or even just to double back to see what has been the follow-up or what has been the further engagement post your screening drive campaigns?
That we work with, and we go to them annually, and we then do screen them once a year, and we work with a rotational basis with Housing Health, especially the Johannesburg and Pretoria area, that they will supply us with specific clinics where they need the assistance. And then we will go get the funding and the support from corporate and fundraising that we do ourselves to be able to fund these clinics. But we do have a rotational basis that we go back to most of the clinics to once a year have a follow-up with the patient.
Just as we wrap it up, those who do perhaps want to take up your call to partner with you, what would be the easiest way to either be in contact with Pink Drive, or what kind of resources would be a priority for Pink Drive right now in order to maximize on the service and the interventions that you do provide?
So if corporate individuals want to get in touch with us, they can definitely visit our website, www.pinkdrive.org. They can phone us on 011 99 88 022. We also have a nurse in the office that can assist with any queries, anything that they are worried about or want to come through to our office in Johannesburg to have a free clinical breast examination. We also offer that in Durban as well as Cape Town once a month. We have these clinics like on a every 2-week base. And if everybody can just, everybody must do their little bit and building a better community out there to visit us on our social media pages as well, like Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter.
Yeah. Nelius, thank you for the time. We appreciate it. And please tell the little individual whose time we ate into that we appreciate them allowing us to steal you away from that hockey match. That was Nelius Dupre, who is the National Marketing and Event Coordinator at Pink Drive. All right, it's 1:30 in just a matter of a few seconds, and Madupi is standing by with the headline news. We'll come back on the other side of this and we'll let you know what's coming up for the last half an hour of the show.
Ashraf Gada on SAFM.
Regarding the prisoner that we're talking about in the first place, did you say has been taken or will be taken against?
We have, because in terms of the Correctional Services Act, it is illegal to have a mobile phone in a correctional facility. That remand detainee has been charged and has also been moved to a maximum correctional center, because clearly being in a remand facility he doesn't see it as an appropriate center to house him. So he has to move. Perhaps where he is now, he will then have respect for the victims of crime. Also, set of knowledge that he's in a correctional facility because he has committed crime or alleged to have committed crime, because he's still trial awaiting. He's attending to court cases.
The spokesperson for Correctional Services, that's Singabako Ngumalo.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
A very good afternoon with the news headlines. The strike at the South African Bureau of Standards has now entered its second day. The case against the former Sports, Arts and Culture Minister Zizi Kodwa and his co-accused has been postponed to the 21st of next month in the Palm Ridge Magistrates Court. And police in Bangladesh have arrested more than 1,000 people over spreading violence during last week's anti-government protests. Details of these and other stories, 3 o'clock.
Stages, pages, screens and more with Bridget Masinga.
And Madubi just let me fib to all of y'all and say that it's 1:30 when it's 2:30. Hopefully no one, got into a fender bender going, huh? What? No, it's 2:30. My bad. We are catching up now with Joan Lithgow, who is the festival director for the International Marimba and Stillpan Festival that is set to be taking place this coming weekend on the 27th and the 28th of July. How are you doing, Joan? You good?
Hi, Bridget. It's great to be on air with you. I'm doing fine. Thank you.
Thank you so much for taking the time and for the patience that you've had with me this afternoon.
No problem.
I appreciate it. Let's talk about, before we even get to the festival, let's talk about marimba and stillpan. Now, Joan, I was in school in the 90s. And in the 90s, the stillpan was a big thing in some of the coastal high schools. I never understood the difference between marimba and stillpan.
Okay, let me help you. Right, so stillpans originate in Trinidad and Tobago, and they're made of tin cans, basically, that are shaped with notes shaped out of the 10-gallon drums.
Yes.
And marimbas are made of wood, and they are played in a different way. The steel pans are played in a circular, the notes are in a circular fashion, and in marimbas, it's in a linear way that we play. So those are the two differences. So the big difference is the one is steel, made of steel, and the other is made of wood.
And as you say it, I remember that. Oh yes, the steel pan. It's the drum, the sort of the half cut drum, the big oil drum, for lack of a better description.
That's exactly what they're made of, from big oil drums.
Yes, and these are big sort of Caribbean tropical sounds, right? Something that we don't necessarily partake in South Africa, but there was a time when there was a sort of big uptake, particularly at schools, with this kind of instrumentation.
Oh yes, so steel pans are very popular in schools, and particularly in the coastal schools. Yes, and it's still very popular. And when you hear a steel pan, you immediately think of an island. Somehow it has that connotation when you hear that.
And by way of let's talk about maybe how do we get this popularized outside of schools, because people take it up in school and then come grade 11, grade 12, then they leave it behind in school. We don't see it popping up in other places. We don't see it sort of being a practice that's carried on into adulthood. And is it a sense of it just doesn't have novelty outside of those sort of adolescent years, or what's the miss? What's the disconnect?
Okay. So from a steel pan perspective, steel pans are very, very popular in the Caribbean, in Trinidad and Tobago, where they originated. But from a perspective here in South Africa, marimbas, as an example, are very much very popular in schools, incredibly popular, and probably the fastest growing afternoon activity, marimba playing in the country. And many kids play in bands once they leave school. So there are many bands that are formed after school here in South Africa. So marimbas are very much an African type instrument.
Okay, very interesting. Listen, I didn't know that it's, one of the fastest growing sort of instruments even outside of school. That's a very interesting and very encouraging as well, right? Because especially if it's an indigenous sound, then it means that we actually are finding some kind of endearment with it.
Absolutely, and identity, Yeah. So, it's wonderful. Marimba playing is so accessible for people with, kids at school, from primary school, from pre-primary school, all the way to past matric. We have children learning marimbas who are physically and sometimes intellectually disabled, and they play incredibly well. So, Education Africa, the organization that is running this festival, we have marimba hubs in 34 different venues, and we have children who are blind learning to play, children who are deaf, children in wheelchairs. We have special marimbas designed for wheelchair access, and it's an incredible instrument, because not only is it something that makes music and makes music quite accessible to everybody, but it also has wonderful benefits for the brain by the way you play the instrument. So by alternating your hands, by all sorts of things like that train the brain in a different way. So that's Education Africa is all about education for a start, and so that's why we actually do marimbas, because of the educational value that marimbas have on our children.
Jonah, how do you guys at Education Africa sort of manage to sustain these? You said 34 hubs across the country, because I figure you probably are providing the instruments, and everything else that goes with it.
Right. So we do get funding from time to time. We're always looking for funding to get, start marimba hubs. And we've been going, the Marimba Hubs program has been going for the last 14 years, I think. And so we do look for funding. We don't get much from South Africa. We're hoping with Minister Gayton Mackenzie that I hope he's listening and he comes to our festival to see just the incredible impact that we have. But together with the funding, we offer training programs for teachers from scratch. Yeah. And then the teachers who train with us then volunteer their services. So we don't pay the teachers. They do it as a voluntary thing to help children in their schools and community centers. But we do offer training, and we do offer regular support where we go out. I've got a team of 5 of us, and we go out and support those teachers on a regular basis, go and visit their schools, make sure they're teaching the methodology that I've devised, and so on and so forth, to make this a really meaningful experience for the children in a holistic educational value. So, it's not just about marimbas, but our methodology is a holistic methodology.
Listen, what we will definitely do is we will tag the minister on this podcast, because I think right now he's in Cape Town because the president is presenting the budget proposals. Yes, so I think he's fully attentive there at the moment. But I did promise him that I'll hold him accountable to making sure he advocates for arts and culture outside of just sports. And so we will definitely tag him on this podcast.
Thank you.
Let's talk about the festival. So 27th, 28th of July, we are at St. Dominic's Catholic School here in Joburg.
Yes, St. Dominic's Catholic School for Girls in Boksburg.
In Boksburg.
So Boksburg is on the East Rand.
Yeah.
And it's been the home of the festival for a number of years. It's got the perfect venue. It's got the perfect ambience. It's a really wonderful school to be hosting. It's also a safe environment for everybody who comes. We've got over 2,300 participants taking part in the festival this year, who are pre-registered and who will be performing in competitions. Over 2 days, we've got competitions running back-to-back from the beginning of Saturday morning at 7:45 until 7 o'clock at night.
Wow.
And then we also have over 90 workshops where you can come and learn to play marimbas or steel pan or mberas. Mberas are thumb pianos. You can come and learn a piano dance. You can come and learn to do some gumboot dancing and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So we have all these workshops that run concurrently with the competitions, and people are able to, if they come to the festival and they pay their money, they can come and take part in the workshops or just come and watch the competitions. It is really quite a wonderful event for families to gather together at the festival.
And, Joan, I think you shortchanged yourselves with the committee by simply titling it the International Marimba and Steel Pan Festival, because from what you've told us, with the interactive workshops, learning to play some of these instruments, it's really about indigenous music.
Absolutely, and it's edutainment at its best, truthfully, because you can experience all sorts of things at the festival, besides just hearing marimbas play.
Yeah.
The kind of activities that you would never be able to just pop in as a family and say, oh, can we learn to play the marimbas somewhere,
Absolutely.
Here, you're able to come to the festival, pay your money, and you can attend a workshop. And by the time you finish in that workshop, you can never say to anyone, I've never played marimbas before, because you will have learned to play marimbas in that 40-minute workshop.
Listen.
And, we've got about 10 workshops running every hour on the hour in 10 different venues throughout the two days.
It definitely sounds like a ball of fun, and maybe even worth me crossing the rivers and the mountains to get to Boksburg.
Absolutely, yes. So where do you stand that you have to cross over the rivers and the mountains?
Trust me, Joan. You know Joburg. You've also got artists coming from outside of South Africa for this. You've got artists coming from Botswana, Zimbabwe, as well as Trinidad and Tobago.
Correct. So we have people from Zimbabwe and Botswana are coming in person, and we're expecting a whole contingent of them. And it's very, very exciting. I might tell you, we get phone calls all day, every day, saying, we can't wait to be at the festival, and everybody's practicing madly to show off their skills. It's really quite awesome. And then we also have an online competition or number of competitions, and these are for people who unfortunately are unable to be in person at the festival due to either logistic constraints or financial constraints, and so they can enter online. And so we have a number of soloists coming from Trinidad and Tobago and a wonderful steel band coming from Trinidad and Tobago taking part in our online competitions.
It definitely sounds like a wonderful treat for the family, and I just love the interactiveness of it all. Just as we wrap up, the tickets, I know already the participants are already sorted, but by way of those of us who just want to come and enjoy the day and take part in everything, where do we go for ticketing and how does that work?
Okay, so you go to Ticket Pro online and you type in International Marimba and Steel Pan Festival and it should come up. You can buy different kinds of ticket prices. So if you're just wanting to watch the different bands perform, you can pay 60 Rand a person per day. If you're wanting to have the full festival experience, by that I mean you come in, you can watch bands wherever you like. You could go to any workshops you wish over the course of the 2 days. Then you would pay 350 Rand for the weekend. Or if you just want to come for 1 day for the full experience, you would pay 200 Rand per person.
Yeah, I definitely love the full experience pricing because
it's great.
That's where the fun lies, right there. Joan Lithgow, thank you so much for the time. And Joan is the festival director for the International Marimba and Steel Pan Festival. It's happening this coming weekend, 27th and 28th of July at the St. Dominic's Catholic School for Girls in Boksburg, Johannesburg. So if you happen to be around and you heard Ticket Pro is where you go for the tickets. I mean, why get the 60 Rand per day ticket to just watch the bands when you can get to the 200 Rand per day ticket and then you can go learn how to play instruments like the marimba. You know what I mean? That's where the fun lies in this particular festival. Definitely that full festival package is the way to go. But Ticket Pro has all the ticketing information for you. Let's take a pause here and then we come back and we wrap it up.
Nothing beats the feeling of relaxing on your couch after a long, hard day, getting rid of those work clothes and feeling the freedom of being in your PJs. Throwing off that lace front, undoing your hair, that makeup, voila, gone. It's going to be a quiet, relaxed night. Well, not on S3. Bring a whole lot of vroom to your weeknights with Top Gear Season 16. Monday to Wednesday at 10 p.m. and Top Gear specials such as Top Gear from A to Z and Top Gear The Races. Friday nights from 9 to 11 p.m. Channel your inner vroom with BBC Primetime. Only on S3. Open up.
Futafui is more than just football. It's a celebration of passion, community, and the magic of Africa's beautiful game. Futafui goes beyond the final score. Uncover the heart of the game with special profile segments, taking you on a captivating journey across the continent. Experience the fabric of African football. Futafui every Saturday at 1:30 p.m. on SABC 1 and Mondays at 6:30 p.m. on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Let's have the conversation. WhatsApp voice notes on 0614 104 107.
086 000 2032. That's our direct call line. And of course, 061 410 4107 is our WhatsApp line. So we were supposed to be catching up with Dr. Becky, who's a pulmonologist. But listen, whenever we invite medical professionals, because we really are infringing on the professional time for these conversations on a Tuesday. And you know, they tend to be very long, our Tuesday conversations. She got stuck in a meeting at the practice, at the hospital, in fact. And I'm telling you this because I know you probably were waiting for the conversation, because I did sort of preempt the conversation earlier on in the show, just in case you were wondering what's happening with the medical chat around pancreatitis. It's because our specialist got called into a meeting at the hospital and she's unable to tear herself away. Shame, and she did desperately try, but we said, you know what, focus on the work at hand and then we'll have this conversation on a different day. But we can always double back to the chat we were having earlier on around indigenous healthcare systems and, of course, the indigenous healers. And we were just talking broadly there, right, with our PhD candidate Hombagazi around that. And it formed part of the work that she was doing in the Eastern Cape for her research paper, was looking at indigenous healthcare healers and healthcare systems, issues around midwifery, circumcision surgeons, even around just your normal traditional healers in the sense of sangomas and inyanga, and how they can all be incorporated into a more westernized system of practice. And of course, we invited you to join in the conversation by way of, just asking, have you utilize indigenous healers, more traditional ways of entering medicine, whether it's by inyanga, sangoma, whether by still keeping up with the circumcision practices in your household for the male lineage of your home. And of course, we also very much focused on the role of midwives, and whether the practice of home birthing was still something that people considered, and it was something that maybe in your family has been utilized and successfully utilized, and you are a believer in midwives, or you have some apprehensions. And we spoke around that as well, around some people do have reservation, especially around midwives and the practice of midwifery, because of maybe the risk factors that are associated with giving birth and how things can change in that birthing environment very quickly. At a drop of a hat, things can turn around and people need to access more Western medicine in the instance of maybe emergencies or something going awry or something changing. 086 000 2032 and 061 410 4107 is our WhatsApp line. Let's go to WhatsApp.
Hi. Good afternoon. My name is Michael. I would like to contribute on the topic, as I find it very, very interesting. I'm a very big fan of traditional medicine. I do consult when necessary. However, I just want to tell a story that my mom told me, that the arrival of Western medicine was very helpful because the traditional midwife was struggling with complication birth. She gave me an example of a lady when she was about to give birth, and she told the traditional midwife that she needed to pee then. And the midwives, they said, no, you don't need to pee. The reason why you feel like you want to pee is because the baby is coming. That resulted on her bladder bursting in the midst of giving birth. And then, for the rest of her life, she couldn't control the urine coming out.
Hello, Bridget and your guest. This is what the colonizers succeeded in doing, demonizing anything African. And as a result of that, even us as Africans, we doubt our own ways of doing. I think many years ago, the midwives, or I might call it traditional midwives or community midwives, were the ones who were taking care of delivering babies in the communities. But because the colonizer came with the Western way of doing things, that is no longer trusted or believed in. Bridget, just to share a quick story. I went for a colonoscopy about 4 years ago, and then they found polyps in my colon. And we have a history of colon cancer in my family. My mom died of colon cancer and breast cancer. So I didn't go the Western way. I hate taking any medication. I did it the traditional way. I haven't been to colonoscopy. I'm not sure if they're still there, but I feel good. This is Tipisa.
Hi Bridget, it's Kanyisila here in Ivenda, Mpumalanga. Bridget,
I was listening to the conversation, and I'm thinking to myself, Western doctors or Western healthcare helpers go to school to learn all these things. I mean, if it was that simple, if it was as simple as I feel we should do this, so let's go with this. Because I feel like with tradition, it's mainly things that you just feel. It's like listening to your instinct or your intuition, like, nah, this is the right way to do it because it feels right. But is that really, really going to help in any way? I doubt. So, guys, let's not do things or put ourselves in situations that are not going to benefit us. Western or nothing, please.
The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga, Monday to Friday, 1 to 3 p.m.
You gotta love the youth. I've told you, we have so many. The perception is that we're very much an older station, but we very much have a majority youth listenership on SAFM. It's just that they don't engage that often, but when they do, they are very clear and assertive with their views and perspectives. Tippy, so and I'm all for incorporate. There's an actual term for this. Someone please help me. There's a term for sort of incorporating Western, Eastern, African medical systems and practices into one and having them work together in tandem. I'm just forgetting what the term is, but there is an actual term. So Tipiso, I'm here for you trying more holistic ways to sort of work through your health issues. But can you also just, and as much as you are feeling good, can you also just go for a colonoscopy just so we can actually get a gauge of, are you okay, and are your ways that you are practicing working, or do they need to be maybe also supported by other things? You know what I mean? So I'm glad you're feeling okay though, but just go check up as well, just to make sure that you actually are okay. Michael's in Kabeja. How are you doing?
I'm good, and how are you?
I'm great, thank you. Go ahead.
Look, here's the thing, right? Before the arrival of, in inverted commas, Europeans to Africa, are we saying that we did not have our own traditional systems of society, of doing things? Of course we did. Spirituality, giving birth, all that. We did that traditionally. And even if you look at what we call Western medicine, people actually forget that medicine itself, it comes from herbs, right? And so traditionally, herbs, we've been using it for thousands of years before even any European landed here. The only thing is that you cannot override big pharma, which is the big pharmaceuticals, because they're like a cartel, like a monopoly, right? So to go against them, it's not going to be possible. So it's two things that's happening. One is a mental slavery, if I can put it that way, and the other one is financial, which is controlled by big pharma.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to say.
Thank you, Michaels. Let me go to Colin quick in Cape Town. Colin, I have to wrap it up in like 40 seconds.
Okay.
Yes.
Hello, Bridget.
Hi.
I heard this caller saying westernized colonization and all that stuff. You know something? I'm 77 years old. 6 boys, brothers, 5 sisters. My mother had 11 children, all at home.
Shoo!
11. And I'm still around, I'm 77. So that wasn't a Western thing. People used to, those days, but as your one caller just said now, you know what I mean?
Yes.
It's a bit of money making also.
Absolutely. Colin, thank you so much for sharing. Lovely to hear. Shoot, 11 children. Can you imagine? My goodness. I hope that mom was well taken care of for the rest of her natural life. That is how we wrap things up from our end this afternoon. Ashraf is in Cape Town. He's going to be broadcasting from Cape Town today. We will see you tomorrow. We thank you so much for always sharing in our conversations and sharing your views and perspectives as well as your personal experiences. We don't take it for granted. You could have been anywhere and you chose to be here. Inshallah, God willing, we get to do it again tomorrow.
The top stories at 3 o'clock. SABS workers strike in its second day, and Zizi Kodwa formally charged with corruption. A very good afternoon. The strike at the SA Bureau of Standards has entered its second day. Workers affiliated to Union Nahawu embarked on a strike in protest at the Bureau's payment structure and are demonstrating outside the company's headquarters in Pretoria. They accuse the SABS of, amongst others, unilaterally changing the current payment structure without consultations, which they say will have an impact on workers' salaries, housing allowances, medical aid, and the 13th check.